What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to another episode of the Smark Out Moments Mac Talk podcast 10-year anniversary. Just feels like it was yesterday. I am your host, as always, Tony Mango. Joining me, as always, are Robert E. Felice.
Howdy, everybody.
Callum Wiggins.
Hello, everyone.
We also have, just because it's the 10-year anniversary and just because these guys were able to, we've got returning from the, I guess it was the last time that these guys were on here, but you know them, you love them. You got Drew White.
I did Leo Neighborino.
You got Mike Payton.
I got a special delivery here for Big E.
It's what kind of a package is it?
Big one.
Those designs didn't last these 10 years, that's for sure. FedEx and UPS, not fan of that. Both of those get taken down on Redbubble and TeePublic, but there still are some up there. If you are interested in some other designs, go check them out if you want to pick up some merchandise and stuff. Maybe I'll redo it. Do they have any new logos for FedEx or anything, or is it the exact same ones? At the same logo, that design that they used to have?
I think they changed their colors slightly at some point. You know,
They
like companies
always
like to
change
do
their
that. Like, yeah, we changed, so we're different now, but it's just like, yeah, you know how they do that.
Just like
WWE's guilty of that too.
a slight hue difference or something. They're going to be like, this is a different shade of purple, so we're now...
There's a slight kerning difference between the F and the X.
I see True WWE Champion is in the live chat right here. Hey, had to show up, even if it's just for a small bit. Happy 10 years. Hope your wedding goes well. Thank you. Yeah, that's happening. This is a busy week, to say the least, when it comes to... We're on this out call. We're going to be doing the mailbag. We're going to be talking about the hot tags. We've got this general idea of this 10-year anniversary thing. I got my wedding coming up on Sunday. I'm going to be moving the day afterward and then flying out to my honeymoon a couple days after that. And then by the time I get back, it's Survivor Series. And then, oh my God, so I'm in a whirlwind right now. But I'd love to be celebrating this kind of stuff with these guys and with all you listening. So thank you for joining us, whether it's live or it's after the fact or something. It's the afternoon on a Wednesday. We normally record a lot of these types of things. How you guys feeling? What's going on? What's new? Let's chat.
It's hump day, buddy. It's hump day. That's what's up.
Mike, wait, I'm Mike.
Come
Come on, you should know better than to go small talk with us.
I'm
exactly.
good. You know how I'm doing. Cal, how you doing?
Oh yeah, doing good. Let's get into the actual discussion so we don't have to be so awkward at this point. It's like, imagine we've been doing this, well, you've been doing this, Tony, for 10 years. Just like, you need to get us focused to get us actually talking about stuff.
And I don't want to talk about my day, so what the hell's wrong with you?
I see Peter's in the chat too. I'm here. Congratulations. Thank you, Peter. I don't know. Where do you guys want to start? Do you want to start with Charlotte Flair?
Actually, you know what? I want to do a start. I want to shout out my boy Peter Piccinini, because I'm assuming that's who it is. He's like a day oneer. He brings a sign every show. He's the MVP. That's all I want to do.
Peter is 100% the MVP of the Sign Me Up. Peter is Sign Me Up. Let's say it that way.
I think that's really underappreciated, and I think we should, since it's a 10-year anniversary, I think we should appreciate fans like him as well, because, without people like him, we probably, who knows what would have happened along the line. So I want to appreciate someone like him because he's a cool guy.
There's a lot of people who have been around for a long, long time. Awesome Piano Man. We've got, you go back to a lot of the older days, Silent Wind of Doom is a name that always comes to mind, and
that's not how you say it.
Silent Wind of Doom.
I never knew with Awesome Piano Man. He did that outro on the piano that one time too, which honestly might be the best outro just from a musical standpoint we've done.
Yeah,
other than maybe the Bo ones.
Well, it's better than the Pyro ones too. But
dude, you can't mess with Batista. Come on.
You got people that pop up all the time on the chats about Marquise, and we got Marco, and you could go on and on. Guest 5 has funded so many different pick your poison options on there. If you don't know what that is by now, come on, guys. If you're listening to a 10-year anniversary, you probably know exactly all the plugs. I don't need to bother to plug things. Like and share, and the same old kind of crap. Also see that we got Adam in the chat here. Happy anniversary, y'all. I'm working a bit longer, but I'll rejoin afterward. Yeah, I don't know how long we're going to be going on this, and people might dip in and out. We might just kind of shoot the shit for a little bit here. I don't know, but we are going to talk about a whole bunch of different things, and some of it's going to be reflecting on old times. Some of it's going to be the hot tag. Some of it's going to be the mailbag questions. We do have some that were sent in ahead of time. So yeah, we could talk Flair, that situation. We could talk Halloween Havoc just happened last night. We've got some of the mailbag stuff sent in from Peter sent in a couple questions. I know that Guest 5 sent in some. I know we got some old-timey ones that we usually get from Howard. We got a couple of things from Michael Patrick. I don't know. Pick a number. Somebody pick a number.
29.
All right, so that's an odd number. That means a mailbag question. That's how I operate. I go.
13th, huh?
Let's go with a question here from Michael Patrick. Why not? Because I just said his name. He says, in the better timeline, which if anybody is brand new to the 10-year anniversary or whatever like that, the idea being that we're living in the worst timeline right now. And the reason why is because Brock Lesnar shouldn't have beaten The Undertaker at WrestleMania. And if Undertaker would have beaten Brock, then COVID probably wouldn't have happened and all this other kind of stuff. It all goes back down to that. Michael asks, in the better timeline where Brock never broke the streak, you have to sign an AEW wrestler to a WWE contract immediately with the idea being that they are the one to finally beat Undertaker at WrestleMania. Who gets the rub?
Okay, well, first off, if we're in the better timeline, AEW isn't a thing.
That's very true, because NXT just swallows up the AEW things.
Okay, but let's say, I'll play along. Let's say AEW is a thing in this ulterior timeline where the Undertaker streak has continued to like this year. This year is the one that was supposed to be broken, or could it be any year that they've been
I
around?
presume if AEW exists, it would have to be sometime in the last 2 years.
And also,
the only thing he specifies is he says, assume that the Undertaker can have a decent 15-minute match. So I'm assuming it's probably,
so this
right now.
This is about 15 years ago then.
Yeah.
I mean, do ex-WWE guys count?
I would assume that they
I guess
probably
that's
wouldn't.
Of AEW, then yeah.
Because if they do, then I feel like the obvious answer is Miro. Because that guy was so underutilized throughout his time. I haven't kept up fully what he's even doing in AEW, but I know for a while he was doing this Slim Shady gimmick where he plays video games, and that was pretty whack too. Then I know he had a little title run, so that was good for him. But I think that guy is capable of so much more. And if they just kept that rocket on him, had him beat Cena, and if for whatever reason he's still separated, but then he built himself up more and then came back, and then you could have him take out Undertaker. Oh my gosh, the guy would be one of the best monsters of all time.
Well, it's like this. Unfortunately, AEW's roster is kind of small. So do you truly believe that there's a size differential it matters for Undertaker loss? Because the only people who really have beaten him are like Lesnar and Roman Reigns, who are like two monsters essentially. So do you think someone like Darby Allin who could ever do something like that?
I
know that was
with
probably
Darby.
a terrible comparison, but off the top of my head, he's like the first person who has a character that I could think of. So I don't know. I mean, you could go with like a CM Punk if you want to joke about that because he's an AEW member. And technically, I would have been fine if he beat him in 2013 with that storyline. But I mean, I don't know. There's not many people in AEW who I kind of think that could do something like that. But I don't know. I just think it's bad booking on their end. And plus, there really hasn't been a credible person built up in like the last 10 years who could challenge The Undertaker anyways.
yeah, I wouldn't want to see anybody on either roster beat the streak. I mean, Brock Lesnar did it, but he's Brock Lesnar. And Roman Reigns could have been a guy. But if you look at somebody on the AEW roster, I don't think there's anybody that would really be fitting. I mean, you can argue Kenny Omega would be a fun match. You can argue Sting should have happened because it's Sting. But to beat The Undertaker, I don't think there's anybody.
No, I'm pretty much in the same camp. I'd say that Miro is the best choice just because of pure like physicality, like the actual look and feel. He's someone who could actually match up to The Undertaker in that regards, and someone who's been one of my favorite parts of AEW. So if I had any choice, then it would be him to break the streak. But realistically, Undertaker's streak probably should never have been broken.
And if we want to just go like all together and like even get like put NXT people in there, I think you would get a better pool of people from the NXT roster just because they're trying to go with a bigger appeal, like a bigger roster size right now than probably AEW anyways. And unfortunately, I hate bringing that up, but I think a larger in life character is really needed for something like that. And I just don't think either show really is, or really anyone in the industry is trying to do something like that right now.
No, you're not wrong. NXT has people like, I mean, God, Braun Breaker's the obvious choice. They're trying to shove the rocket on right now, but an Odyssey Jones. They have that tag team of the collegiate dudes that are just kind of roughing up everybody.
Creed Brothers,
they're actually going for more of that rough and tumble kind of style people, and that's where you're going to find someone who could beat the streak. It's not going to be Flippy Boy Jones.
Yeah, they're doing what they should have really been doing at the time that AEW started, which is differentiate themselves from AEW's. Because whether you like the NXT approach or whether you like the AEW approach, one way or the other, at least they're different now. Whereas a year or so ago, AEW was essentially doing what NXT did with a better production budget, essentially, or like just better workers in general, or more experienced workers. And so that's why they were outclassing them. At least now, NXT is now going with this new blood of big collegiate athletes.
And even then, I mean, there's nobody that stands out to me because I just kind of can't see anybody beating Undertaker and me being okay with it.
I mean, it's fundamentally the case that you haven't built anybody, especially in the WWE side of things right now, that you could even imagine beating the Undertaker if his streak was still intact. It'd just be a case of you would be essentially, this is going to be the thing that makes a person who we have really no idea about right now. I'd assume it'd be like Haaland.
Yeah, and that's just so weird to be like, oh man, like the Undertaker streak is broken by Harlan, like that kind of thing, or like there are people that could. Obviously, this is a fantasy booking scenario, so lots of tweaks happen, but like I could see just physically somebody like a Brian Cage putting up a fight, or a Wardlow putting up a fight or whatever, but I just can't picture anybody actually beating Undertaker and not having another parallel universe where I'm saying, oh, on a better timeline when the Undertaker doesn't lose to blank instead, where it's Serpentico, whoever it might be. I don't know, that certainly wouldn't be Serpentico, but like, say Orange Cassidy beats him. Like, I'm a huge fan of Orange Cassidy, but I'd be like, that doesn't make any sense, and that shouldn't have happened, and whatever. And I realistically can't think of anybody that should have beaten The Undertaker, period, except maybe John Cena. If they just wanted to put that stamp on him as like, all right, he went in as champion in that range where John Cena was like the unbeatable champion, and he was up against the streak, and he beat The Undertaker, and it became like, all right, he's definitively the best of all time in their minds. That's the end of that chapter. But then that shouldn't happen either, so, it still would have been a broken timeline. It just, there's no AEW wrestler that stands out to me for that. Even Miro, I don't think he deserved that kind of a thing. Miro's cool, but...
I mean, if we're talking in general, I think Roman would have been a good guy to do it.
He could have been.
Was obviously going to get the rocket anyway, and he could have seemed like a more natural evolution of what The Undertaker was for his era to the next era.
A lot of Owen Hart talk today.
I thought the same thing too. The risk you run with something like that is it's also just another accolade that would have felt shoved down people's throats with Roman. Mm-hmm. Maybe if they waited until now, where Roman actually feels like he's at that level, it could have worked. But even, what was it, just 2 years ago when he beat him, it still felt like it was too much for him.
And we talked about this back when it happened, but when he beat him, even though Undertaker had already lost at that point, it still mattered a lot. And the night afterward, Monday Night Raw, where he just cuts the promo of "It's my yard now," that should have been the trigger for the Tribal Chief. And WWE just botched it all over. Because imagine if he would have beaten The Undertaker, and that would have been the end of the streak, and he cuts that promo, and then he goes into Tribal Chief. I think that could have been an amazing thing, but instead, he lost to Brock, and then he lost the second time there, and then they decided to go against the whole heel turn and just keep Roman in the babyface mix and, dawdled.
So would you say in hindsight that it's one of the biggest botches of the last 10 years would be the streak ending?
Oh yeah, I mean, just in general, it was a bad move. I don't think anybody ever wanted to see it end. You can say, yeah, Brock Lesnar is a great guy to do it. He's so legitimate. Everything about Brock Lesnar seems like, okay, he can actually end the streak and be a great monster going forward. But it's still, nobody ever wanted to see it end. So why would you end it?
I don't blame you. Anything with Lesnar since like 2016, I have personally just forgotten about just because I don't care at this point with him. So I don't know. It was a bad move in hindsight, but I think they should have just left it undefeated. And honestly, I think it would have been fun if they just kept it at that.
I think the only thing that makes it seem worse in hindsight now is the fact that he kept wrestling. I think if he got beat by Lesnar there and we never saw Undertaker again other than just for special appearances, it would have meant so much more. But because he just came back and, I don't even remember who he's fought since then besides Roman. It doesn't makes it not matter then.
So he's had matches with Jericho, Miro, Shane, Roman, Cena. He had that whole build up with John Cena at WrestleMania that was like, I want to fight the Undertaker, but he doesn't want to fight me. And
his last match was AJ at WrestleMania. So
yeah, in the cinematic match.
Yeah,
that was fun.
I'd say fundamentally that if Undertaker streak ever had to end, it should have just been his immediate retirement after that. It just feels wrong that was the last real big thing in wrestling was Undertaker's streak, and having it end and then him just continuing to plod along, not being as good in the ring and not really doing as much at all was really worth anything. I mean, realistically, how much of what he's done since the streak was actually worthwhile?
He introduced Pitbull.
We didn't see that though.
Peter mentions Goldberg.
Yeah.
The Goldberg thing
on that match. Yeah.
I will say, if they did anything with Taker after he lost that match at WrestleMania, I would have been fine with what they did with him and Lesnar with the follow-ups, even though it's kind of booked incorrectly. Those matches in 2015 at SummerSlam and I think Hell in a Cell, they were fine matches, just kind of slightly overbooked in hindsight. And I wish we'd got a match like that at WrestleMania. It's just a shame that Taker got a concussion literally within like 5 minutes at the beginning of that match.
Catching up on the live chat here, Grimshot says, "Did you say break the streak or break their neck? Because Lance Archer is." That's on topic for this one.
Neck. That's breaking his own neck.
Right. That's scary. Is there any news on that, by the way?
Oh no, he was fine.
He said he was fine.
Okay, good.
Yeah, he walked out of it.
Good, because man, that was one of those bumps where you're just kind of like, shit.
I mean, that's one thing that he and Brock Lesnar have in common, at least. So
did Jinder Mahal ever have a match with Lesnar?
He was supposed to, and then they put the belt on
Styles.
AJ. Yeah.
Okay. I thought that I was thinking about that, but thank you for reminding me. I kind of want to see that match now. That would have been fucking amazing to see in hindsight. I mean, who would have loved to
him Jinder Mahal?
I mean, who wouldn't have loved to see Jinder get like absolutely destroyed by Lesnar in hindsight? That would have been amazing.
Now that Lesnar is a babyface, maybe he'll do it.
Yeah, even better. I want Jinder to go in there and be competitive.
I thought you were going to say even better. You want Jinder Mahal to go in there and beat Brock.
Yeah, I want Jinder to go in there with Brock and put him in a rest hold for 5 minutes.
Yeah, we maybe that different timeline. Something ends up happening differently with Jinder Mahal doesn't win the championship and all that, because if you track everything that goes there, of course, you pull the pin of the Brock scenario, then that all these other kinds of things start crumbling, and then we don't get a whole variety of different champions and everything. Some of it probably for the worse, some of it definitely for the better. And Peter's calling for the Jinder Mahal face turn. That joke is so old that I don't remember when it started, but it's just become like...
I don't know, but you do it every day, no matter what.
I constantly do this joke, and it's just like, there are certain jokes that, from 20 years ago that I still do, that I don't even remember how it happened or whatever. If somebody drops something around me, I'll say, that's a broken one, and I forget why that started as a joke with my friends, but it's just kind of like, it's a broken one. And
God, I'm pretty positive that predates Three-Man Band.
The Jinder Mahal face turn thing?
Yeah,
it might.
It goes all the way back to when he was like hanging around Kali.
Let me see if I have that up on the site, because for anybody who knows, there's a little section of the website that has an index of the jokes that I've been able to track over the years. Let's see. Gender. Okay, it's 2013. Whenever someone asks about it, okay, no description of when it started, because so even then I didn't know when it was. But that was inducted into the Smark Out Moment Hall of Fame class of 2017 for those jokes. Yeah, 2013 is around the time that we were doing that. So this is, Christ, that's old.
Yeah, three-man band started in 2012. You figure that joke had to be at least 2 years old at that point, right? When you put it in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, the 2017 one. So it's a couple years, 4 or 5.
2017, you said. Oh.
Yeah. It's around that time frame, but I mean, at that point, you're looking at 8 years of this joke of the Jinder Mahal face turn. And I think it was just on the chat. It might have been just like, I don't know, like Kaylin would have just said like, did I miss anything or something? And I've been like, yeah, Jinder Mahal turned babyface. Like, but we never got that.
Yeah. And you still do it every day.
Yeah. You burned some of these into my brain. Like, you heard the Owen Hart Rocket thing. Like, if anybody says they got the total package, I'm gonna just go, Lex Luger. Like, it's just gonna work, you know.
I can't even say 11 around here anymore.
11. Why don't we go to another question here from Michael, just to round out Michael's questions. In the not too distant future, Vince McMahon and Tony Khan become bored with professional wrestling and decide to shake things up. Who was the winner of the first and only WWE AEW Squid Games? I have not seen Squid Games yet.
Which is Squid Game, first of all, I think, isn't it? Not
Is it Squid Game?
Yeah,
it's
just
the
Squid
Squid Game.
Yeah.
The Squid Game.
Yeah. Okay, so you'd kind of be looking for someone who is pretty ruthlessly competitive. So.
Oh, I know the answer. Jeff Jarrett. He is just such a backstabbing little turd.
Top,
yeah, he would make it to the end.
He'd be the one controlling it, but actually still be participating in it at the same time.
Is there any kind of element of Squid Game where you sell cash for gold or anything like that?
No, you sell organs of the dead players for money.
Okay, well, then it might be the same thing.
I mean,
how else are you going to fund Global Force Wrestling?
I mean, Jeff Jarrett works for that. Hulk Hogan would work for that as well. But Hulk Hogan would probably struggle a little more on the more athletic side a bit.
I think Brock Lesnar would survive something like that.
I have a better question. Who would be the front man?
Who would be in charge of it?
Yeah, the front man. The guy in the really cool black mask.
So
just
you would imagine.
Okay, so spoiler for anyone who hasn't watched this, the most watched series in Netflix history that's been out for over a month
That's me now.
Yeah, I'm probably going to binge it on the flight. I don't know.
All right, well, this isn't that big of a spoiler anyway. The front man, the guy who's running it, is a former contestant who survived and won the game previously. So that's kind of an important
the
aspect.
Ruined. Everything's ruined. Life changed.
And here I thought that he was a squid.
I thought Squidward was in charge for crying out loud.
It's just the whole reason it's Squid Game is because I'm a squid and I want to play games.
Well, it'd have to be someone who's like gone through hell and like gone through basically the most awful torture game in history and survived. So probably TNA. Just be the embodiment of TNA.
Oh, just TNA in general.
Yeah.
So this comes down to like Relic.
Terry Funk would probably be a good
Abyss.
Yeah. Crimson. What are some other names that are like that?
I think TNA would make it to the end because they just never die.
They really don't. Like, that championship, even over the past, it was like 7 months or so, however long it's been, they resurrected that TNA championship and then killed it again. And it's like, and Christian's not the champion right now, right? He dropped it the other day.
It is currently Moose.
Yeah, he lost it to the new Kurt Angle dude, and he lost it to Moose.
There's a thing going around now that they're probably going to edit it out. If anybody checked out the footage of Moose cutting that promo, somebody's dropping the N-bomb on that. And it's like, all right, well, it's a good way to start your new championship kind of thing. Yeah.
Getting that good heat, bro.
It's just like
There's probably brother in the audience saying that.
that was the only news. The only news story that I heard out of that was not like, this crazy cool thing happened or whatever. It was like somebody yelled the N-bomb at Moose during this promo. It's like, oh, okay. That sucks.
Never change Southern wrestling.
TNA, though. TNA.
I mean, it's their own fault. They shouldn't have invited Hogan back.
God.
Also, shout out to Christopher Merritt in the chat. I was just noticing that I didn't say hey to Chris. I don't know. We'll bounce around to another mailbag topic, but current events. Let's talk about something that I'm sure we can dive pretty deep into. The Charlotte Flair situation is something that is a big story for this week. It's, if we were to do traditional hot tags on Friday night, that would probably still be the top hot tag. For anybody who hasn't been following the Flair thing, I erroneously spoke on the last hot tags about this being, it's fucking nothing. Turns out that it was. The title exchange that happened on SmackDown. Now, Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair holding the Raw and SmackDown Women's Championships and being traded to the opposite brand led to a situation where they needed to, of course, swap the titles, just like they did last year with the Street Profits and the New Day. And we talked about that before. It's kind of lame. It's kind of ridiculous, whatever. Plan ahead of time, blah, blah, blah. But the way that they did this was just a title exchange, and it was awkward. Becky is standing there in between, Sonya Deville's in between Becky and Charlotte, and they're going to just hand the titles. And instead of just being like, okay, well, why don't we make this or whatever? Why don't we just do this? There was tension. Flair pretends like she's not going to hand it. Becky throws the championship at her after Flair tosses it to the ground and Sonya's telling her to go pick it up and whatever. And I just assumed that this was just part of, we're going to make them both look like they're spoiled brats and bitches and they're angry at each other and that's going to lead to Survivor Series and whatever. Turns out afterward, we find out that Charlotte Flair has a whole bunch of heat attached to her name. And there are reports all over the place here. Rob, you might be able to clarify some of this just because of your connection when it comes to Fightful and, getting the scoops and stuff. But from what I've been able to see all over the place, it seems like it kind of boils down to these sort of topic and talking points. Number one being Flair has been very critical of WWE creative as of late, and that's something that has led to Ric Flair leaving. Number two, that she wanted to drop the championship to Bianca on Monday Night Raw. And number three, that this argument of that's going to make me look weak doing the title exchange led to people basically being like, Charlotte, get off your high horse here. And everybody kind of backing Becky as like, fuck Charlotte. Is that right? Or is this like an oversimplification or there are too many elements to it? Am I missing parts?
So, Fightful Select had it as Becky was supposed to grab the belt from Charlotte and parade around like, I'm Becky 2 belts again, before Sonya would say, no, give Charlotte the belt. Charlotte didn't think that was the best course of action, because, that would make her look weak, that she would just allow Becky to take the title from her. So, the dropping the title on the ground was an accident, but Lynch throwing the title at Charlotte was not. So
Flair she wasn't supposed to drop the championship, but they're ruling it as an accident, even though she very clearly did it on purpose.
Right, the original reports had it that she wasn't supposed to drop the title because that was just like, oh, I accidentally dropped it. But the whole thing was just so awkward, and it keeps coming back to Charlotte has all this heat on her. She had that little brief spat with Nia Jax on Raw a month ago or whatever it was. And there was also the report that she wanted to just lose the belt to Bianca, which would have made more sense because Bianca's a Raw superstar. And look, I know that a lot of people are down on Charlotte for this, but I get it personally. What do you guys think? I think it's good for Charlotte to protect her image in this way, don't you think?
As someone who's a long form hater of Charlotte, I do not hate this. And honestly, I find it really surprising this is a bigger deal than what it is. And I know the parties involved made it a bigger deal than what it was supposed to be, and it became a big issue where it was a shouting match and backstage as well. So, I mean, it's a lot more than just what we know, obviously. But I don't get mad at Charlotte for something like this. Honestly, the two belts thing. I've never been a fan of Becky since like 2020. Honestly, I never found like her title reign then that appealing. So I personally don't really want to see that kind of stuff already. So if I was Charlotte or if I wasn't someone in this situation like her, I probably would have, I don't know if I would have reacted like that, but I don't know. I probably would have been somewhat upset. But Charlotte needs to also remember she's like a 20,000 time world champion. And so I really don't think there's very much that could be done that WWE could do, honestly, that could affect her image unless she does something stupid on her own. Like, she's not going to go out there and literally do fart things like Natalya did in 2012. There's not very much WWE, like, I just don't think there's much that WWE could do to affect her image. Like, if Charlotte left and went to AEW, for example, she'd be just as big, or if not bigger there, just because AEW is a growing brand and that's the hot thing right now. So, personally, I am not very upset with everything. I think it's a way bigger deal than what it should be, but I don't know. I haven't been keeping up with everything as much as I have been 2 or 3 years ago. So who knows?
I think it's a very interesting situation because I feel like this stuff happened all the time 20 years ago or so when you actually had stars in the company.
This is some 1990s Shawn Michaels shenanigans.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just a case of, I feel that there's multiple things going on which makes it like hard to discuss really, but it's a case of there's different interpretations of it because I imagine that there's two people in that company right now, or two people in general that are doing this sort of thing where they're going up to Creative and saying, yeah, that doesn't work for me. I'm not going to do this. I don't like this. Don't do this. And that's Roman Reigns and Charlotte Flair. Roman's being viewed as a locker room leader and like a guy who's treating himself at the star that he is, and Charlotte Flair is being called a bitch. I think there's some sort of gender element to it, but I don't really want to go too far into that side of things. I think it's more just about there's more of a culture backstage now, it seems, where people are just do what they're told and try and make the best of a bad situation. Whereas Charlotte is actually calling WWE out on their really crappy creative, like this title switch thing, and she's getting blamed for it because everyone else is now absorbed into this culture of, well, we just do what we told and we try and turn chicken shit into chicken salad. And that's what we do.
Can you imagine in the 90s the idea of just, hey, we're going to just swap the world titles just hand to hand? Like, if there was 2 world titles in WWE at that point, honestly, I feel like it would be, I don't think it would be as big a deal as maybe just like the finger poke of doom or some of that other shit. But if you care about kayfabe and all that shit, that's so fucking stupid. It makes more sense to, drop the title to Becky, I don't know why I was about to say that, to Bianca Belair. Or, I don't know, if you want to bring it back to everything since 2014 has been The Undertaker and Brock Lesnar's fault, then this could have been avoided if WWE just make the 2 women's titles have 2 unique names. So if they swap shows, you don't have to worry about shit like this. You don't have to worry about this with any other title. Well, I mean, my bad. You had to worry about this with the tag team titles.
But that's the same scenario as the Raw and SmackDown tag team.
But it was stupid then as well.
Right.
It was stupid in 2019.
But that's
I just don't want to say it's stupid now as well.
That's how you can get away with, like, Damian Priest and Shinsuke Nakamura could have been traded to different brands, and then it could have been, all right, well, now the Intercontinental Champion's on Raw. Like, it wouldn't have served any kind of other purpose other than just swapping. But you do the Raw and SmackDown thing, you realistically can't have the Raw champion on SmackDown without looking like an idiot. And they needed to get around that somehow, and it seems like they just basically, they switched over Charlotte to SmackDown as a means to be like, hey, Fox, look, you got Charlotte Flair, shut up. You got Charlotte and Roman, get off our ass. Without thinking about the championships, because they don't really care about the championships, because ultimately, and we've talked about this a million times before, but they're props, and if you need the belt, you need the belt, but that person doesn't need the belt because we like them. So then let's give them the belt because they're important. And like, there's that whole discussion over and over again. But swapping the titles the way that they did, it is dumb. And it's kind of like, I support Charlotte Flair from what I can tell from the reports about all this, of her being like, this is stupid, let's do this instead, or whatever. But if she's got an attitude to go along with it, then, you know, sometimes somebody can be right, but they could go about it the wrong way. Or they can be 75% right, and that 25% could be such a wrong element of it that people just get lost in that part and ignore the positives. You know, you can agree with the politicians even. You can agree with what a politician says for most of their platform, but that one issue is the thing that makes you not vote for them or whatever. So it might just be like, in another way of approaching it, Charlotte could be the one that's championing this major change in the company, and instead, because she's going about it in a way that makes it seem like she's holier than thou, people are like, well, you know, she's got to stick up her ass instead of anything else, you know?
Well, no, it's like Drew said, well, what is she worried about her image for? There's nothing they can do to hurt her image. But, you know, the way Callum put it was perfect. Charlotte is an actual star. Not everybody is The Miz, and while I like The Miz would do whatever they told him to do and just go, "Ah, shucks, okay." You know,
It's
and
sad to say.
Charlotte is better than that, and I'm glad that somebody is saying, no, this is dumb, because John Cena's not there to call them out on their bullshit anymore, and somebody has to, and it's just good to see somebody actually doing that.
Well, it's if Charlotte was upset with the booking just now, I don't understand why she wasn't upset with the booking in like 2015 when a storyline literally revolved around Paige making fun of her because her brother like killed himself pretty much, so, or died of an overdose. So I'm just saying that like
because she
there's
wasn't a
been
star. She wasn't the top name of the women's division back then.
I don't know, dude. She was pretty big in 2015. That was in the middle of her long reign. She came in 2014, I thought. Didn't she win the Divas in 2014?
No, she won the Divas title in September. That promo happened in November.
I thought that promo happened in September.
Nope.
Before or after Jinder Mahal turned babyface?
Yeah.
No, it happened after he turned babyface, obviously.
Either way, though, I mean, she's in a position now where she is a much bigger deal than she was back then, so she's got more pull now.
She's just not a person who should be complaining about looking weak at this point. I mean, she is going to end up having more title runs than they had minutes of wrestling in the Queen's Crown tournament.
Yeah.
So just keep in mind where her position is with that. And this girl's going to worry about looking weak because another person grabs the title out of her hands for a few seconds.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay. Like,
that's where it goes into nitpicky territory sometimes, too.
Exactly. You got to fight for your spot. You got to fight for a really good idea. Is this the hill to die on?
I don't know. Do you think Becky should be a bigger star than Charlotte Flair? I think that's how Charlotte Flair is looking at it. She's probably looking at it as she is a Flair. She is the biggest star. She can be a bigger name than Becky. And she probably is viewing it that way. Is she
really, or is she just because WWE tells you? Because as a person who doesn't watch very much, over the last few years, I've seen far better fan reaction for Becky than I have for Charlotte.
You're right. And I'm someone who hasn't been a big fan of Becky Lynch in like the last 2 years. And I'm in the exact opposite standpoint of a fan of Becky, and that's view. But I just don't understand how this is like at all really Charlotte's fault or even Becky's fault. This is just bad booking and like two people who are upset. And even like Sonya Deville, who is now being thrown into this as well and getting in arguments with people. It's just so sad because it really shouldn't have came to this.
Well, based on the reports that I've seen out there, it's basically been a building thing with Charlotte. Like, this is just one more thing in a giant, like, arsenal of thing that people are throwing against her to just to devalue her. And I'm sure a lot of it is jealousy based. Of course, it would be. A lot of it is jealousy based because she is positioned as the top star in the company. She has more title reigns than anybody else. She's always in the title picture. And she also takes more time off than a lot of the women as well, in terms of just like actually like being away for whatever it is, for like surgical procedures, time off, anything like that. And so I imagine there is a lot of jealousy surrounding that as well.
Look,
I mean,
I wonder if anyone in that women's division is actually upset that Becky literally didn't have to drop a title and she handed a title over because she was pregnant. I'm really curious if that is not an issue at any standpoint, because I really think that's bad booking.
A very important aspect of that is Becky wanted to lose at Mania.
Yeah.
She fought hard to lose at Mania, and they told her no.
Well,
so
yeah,
the answer to your question, Drew, she was fighting for the right thing to do. There.
I get that. I understand that. I don't disagree with that at any standpoint. I've read the reports.
That leads to this. That leads to this discussion about Charlotte wanting to drop the title to Bianca on Raw. So I'm in two minds about this because of where the source comes from, because it came from Alex McCarthy at TalkSport. And conveniently enough, he was also the guy that brought out the stuff about the bogus pregnancy rumors for Charlotte Flair that left her out of WrestleMania this year. So I'm in the camp that believes that he is Charlotte is one of his sources, or someone in Charlotte's camp is one of his sources. So that's why I can't fully believe the story about she wanted to drop the title to Bianca, because that may be something that Charlotte's using to make herself look more babyface from a PR standpoint. So that's, again, a lot of these reports you can take with a certain amount of grain of salt, but I feel she's trying to do this really weird tightrope walking act where she is still going out and doing the stuff that WWE's telling her to do, but doing it in a very petulant way.
Yeah, it's the kid that cleans the room but stomps the whole time, kind of deal.
Yeah, it doesn't help. She's got all these people in her ear, like her father, who's probably telling her that, you're the daughter of the greatest legendary wrestler of all time. Her fiance and all of his new friends that are over in this country telling, oh, no, you deserve so much better than what they're doing to you. I'm sure that's having a massive play on her ego.
Yeah. And also it's a case of, she's doing this balancing act, but she's not going full-blown Steve Austin in 2002 walking out in the company because he didn't want a job to Brock Lesnar on TV.
Now,
so it's weird. It's a weird.
With some of these things, it's let's talk about the Belair thing. If if she would have said, "Why don't I just lose the title to Bianca? I don't understand why I can't just lose it," and then that way the title's on Raw, and that solves the issue instead of handing it over. Then if that is true, I agree with her, and then that becomes a whole discussion point of, well, then what do you do with the SmackDown title, because Becky is over on Raw with the SmackDown title and you can't just whatever. Then it becomes, all right, well, then you should have just done the whole switch over with Sasha and blah, 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 blah. But that is all dependent upon if that's even true at all. And I do think that there's a chance that there might be that thing that Callum's talking about where she might be kind of baby facing herself, because a lot of people do that with arguments. It'll be like, yeah, you called me out on these things that I did wrong, but hey, I was also the one that did this right, so maybe take some of the pressure off of me, that kind of deal. It might just be bullshit. It might be entirely true. In any fashion, if that's the case, and if she suggested it and WWE said no or whatever, and she was supposed to just do this whole title exchange thing, then we're back to the point that Peyton brought up. Is that the hill to die on, where you've won so much stuff over these years. You've literally won everything you possibly can win, including creating new types of accolades. Like, Becky versus Ronda at WrestleMania, Charlotte gets inserted into there because it would be weird if it wasn't Charlotte Flair, and that's the only reason why they did it. It wasn't because they needed Charlotte in there. They could have done Becky versus Ronda, and it would have been the same scenario.
I always took that as that was more of a creative being mad that Becky
usurped their plan, kind of.
Yeah, and it was their plan to have Charlotte there, so we're gonna put Charlotte.
So we're gonna put Charlotte Flair there because we wanted her there. God damn it! So it's happening, even if it's an extra kind of
much
thing.
More of a stubbornness thing.
So she's gotten that. She's won the Royal Rumble at a year where it didn't make any sense for her to win. And then all that happened out of it was that she pushed down Rhea Ripley, which is probably not her call, to be fair, for Charlotte. She's probably not saying, hey, how about I win the Royal Rumble and I beat that up-and-comer Rhea Ripley. It's probably WWE Creative that did it. But that's how some of that stuff happens. And it's like, well, what's her call versus what WWE does that she gets attributed to? And just because she's in that position, it's not necessarily her fault. Right. But if she's also bought into the bullshit and she feeds it, then that's where it comes in, where you're like, all right, now you believe your own hype.
It feels like WWE's terrible booking of a women's division since the women's revolution has led to a few of their top stars hating each other. Maybe they should fix that.
And
Well,
that's another
you
thing
know-
too, is that some reports are saying that this has been building for a while, where tension between she and Becky in particular has been rocky. And maybe that's a jealousy thing on Charlotte's on Charlotte's account. Maybe she's like, I don't like this idea that Becky stole my thunder. And I'm supposed to be the one that's on top. What do you mean that the man is here? That's my dad's catchphrase, and that kind of
That's why
deal.
I'm curious if Charlotte is upset at all by being playing in as like the third fiddle for like the Ronda Rousey Becky Lynch match, or like you said, being used as like challenging an up and comer for an NXT Women's Championship, which isn't viewed now as the same as the other two women's titles. I feel like if Charlotte was upset about those things, if she's taking it out on Becky, then she's not the right person to take it out on. But at the same time, there's so much into it. It's always funny that Charlotte and Becky are now the new Shawn and Bret Hart. It's always fun and interesting that way, how the cycles of life never ends and they just keep on repeating in wrestling.
But let's talk about the booking of the Queen's Crown tournament and the women's division in recent months. Maybe Charlotte is like, what the fuck? We did all this stuff and it's just reverting back to what it was. Somebody has to say, no, stop this shit. It has to stop somewhere. Maybe Charlotte just thinks, I can afford to lose, I can afford to challenge them, so I'm going to.
Well, I don't know how
they want it to
will-
stop. You freaking sell more merch than Alexa Bliss is selling little dolls. That's how
Yeah.
you
Is that
make it
really like the
stop.
highest like selling merch right now? Is that doll
Yes.
really like it is?
Yeah,
Jeez.
it was a really big seller. Yeah, I mean, it's
I thought everyone hated that character.
Everyone on
The-
the internet hated it.
Doll collectors really loved it.
Everyone
Everyone
on
on
kids
Twitter hates them,
did.
but like people will always overestimate how big the Twitter audience is and these things and stuff like that. But
But then you can be snarky and make a comment of selling a lot of merch did great for Bray Wyatt, who they released. So
I mean, it's more for me. It's more of a case of we don't hear reports, we don't hear anything out there that Charlotte is championing the women's division. We hear she's championing herself. Yeah,
herself.
Yeah.
she's trying to she's trying to make sure that she is protected and she looks good. Which, as Payton rightly says, like she's held more women's titles than basically anybody in history, almost combined at this point. So, like, what more does she need to do to make herself look protected? But then there's also this counterbalance thing is that Becky is now treated as a hero backstage. And the reason for that, I feel, is like the perception thing where Becky was someone who was held down by creative or wasn't overlooked and then pushed herself to the point where over a few segments where she would be like the next top name in the company, whereas Charlotte has always been at the top. So of course people backstage are going to look at Becky and say, like, that's someone to aspire towards. That's someone who did it the right way. And just look at Charlotte's like, you've just been positioned there the entire time. Which, again, it's weird dynamics. Like, no one says that about Roman Reigns. No one backstage, at least we hear it. People obviously on the internet will say that. But how many people do we hear about backstage talk about how great a guy Roman is and how Roman is a real locker room leader and stuff like that? It's weird.
And that's the argument of you've earned it versus you've been handed it. And I'm curious if this is not to get too political, but I'm curious if this is kind of one of those things. You've all heard the term trickle down. What if Flair's idea behind this is, I'm the face of the women's division, and as long as I look strong, the whole women's division looks strong. Kind of the way that rich people will be like, well, if I don't pay my taxes, I can give more money to buying things. And then you poor people can get the spillover of my spare change that I do. So give me more money because I'm the one I should be the one controlling it. That kind of deal. Maybe it's that, which is the wrong way of looking at things, because then you go, so basically you're telling me for me to succeed, I need to hand my power over to you because you are so much above us that you deserve to be like handing out all the seeds to plant the trees in the kingdom kind of deal. Like, and then that becomes, well, Becky just proved you wrong. She got to that point without needing you. And I mean, she kind of did because she needed the adversary, but you know what I mean? Like, maybe that's where a lot of the arguments come, where Flair could be trying to do the right thing and not even realizing that she's going about it the wrong way because she's so wrapped up in her own bubble of this bubble to not realize that, you know what, hey, maybe I can take a step back and still champion in the same cause without people getting mad at me.
You can't deny, like, her booking has been just as shit as the rest of the women's division. It's just that she's on top of it all.
Yeah.
She was at the center of all that NXT stuff, but she came out looking the best because she won everything, but it's still garbage, and it still has to wear on someone.
That's still just, it's what it, this attitude she's having is a relic of wrestling's past and its carny days. And I'm going to kind of take this back in a circle to what we were saying in the beginning, where just things have changed. You are more expected to just go in there and do what you're told. And if you earn your spot and you show that you got the creative bone, yeah, you'll be allowed to give input and take leadership in your own direction. But, you know, even The Undertaker, you know, he goes in there and he does what he's fucking told. There's nobody who would possibly have more pull in that company than Undertaker, but you know, besides Vince himself. I think he looks to The Undertaker for advice more than he looks at his own son-in-law. And even he is like, oh, you want me to lose to Brock? Well, you know, I don't know if that's really the best idea, but if that's what you want me to do, Vince, all right, let's go. And that's what the company is now. And I hate to say it, but if Charlotte doesn't like that, well, maybe she should have went to fucking Shimmer, you know? Like, what else is there to say?
I mean, imagine, like, however many years ago it was, but Brock Lesnar re-debuted in, like, 2012. He lost his first match back. It's like, nobody, like, who thought that was a good idea, but he still did it because he was paid to do it. It's just, that is the dynamic nowadays. And like, Charlotte Flair is getting, like, terrible booking. Yeah, she is getting terrible booking, but, like, look around. Like, you basically point at someone in the locker room. It's just like, yeah, they're getting terrible booking as well. Basically, there's one person in this company that's not being booked terribly, and it's Roman Reigns.
Yeah.
And it's just, yeah, that's the dynamic. She's just part of this entire miasma thing, but she thinks that she's above it all. And to an extent that she is above it all, but it doesn't mean that she can go about it the way that she wants to go about it, especially, and not expect any blowback for it. And maybe this is the response that she wants. I mean, I don't know what mindset she's in right now. No one knows except for her and the people closest to her. Maybe she is really angling to get out of her contract and leave to go to AEW.
Because, I mean, you got to know, too, if you're in AEW, you're winning that championship, you're being a big deal, you're being treated like that savior to the women's division kind of deal anyway. So maybe that's what she wants to do.
It's one of those weird things where I'm sure people are getting in her ear, like, especially Rick and Andrade, telling her that she could go to AEW or you should try and be getting out of your contract. I wonder how many people in AEW are actually looking forward to the idea of Charlotte Flair joining, if that was the case. Because again, it's not like AEW and WWE are like two separate universes. They do interact with each other quite a considerable amount. So I imagine that those stories are translating over, and so they might have some. I'm getting, like, Charlotte's getting a bit like Tessa Blanchard vibes now, almost.
Well, how much longer is her contract with WWE?
Many years, apparently. It's like. Well, I don't know. I don't know exactly. I don't think the details are out, but it's like a multi-year still thing.
She didn't get that Kevin Owens opt-out like how he somehow got. That's so fucking crazy that that's an actual thing. Oh, I saw the 5-year deal. I'm just kidding. It's actually, Bret Hart.
Yeah, that's a great point, though. If you are a fan of, like, what's her name, Chris Statlander, Thunder Rosa, these kind of girls,
even Britt Baker,
if Charlotte goes over there, they're not going to get the kind of exposure they're getting now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it will all be about her. The only thing that will prevent them from will stop those women from being pushed down the card if Charlotte Flair was to join is that Charlotte Flair does the real Tessa Blanchard thing and goes after the men's title.
Is it possible for AEW to build a women's division though that's on par with WWE's? It just seems very unlikely that
you need to have a. They need a star. They need a star, definitely. And Britt Baker is on the journey toward that. I don't think she's quite there yet, but they would benefit from someone who is on the level of Charlotte Flair. It's just whether Charlotte Flair would destabilize that locker room more than invigorate it.
You know what would be a point of discussion? A point of discussion would be, but we've got the TBS championship now. You can win that one.
You mean the Hose championship?
Hose?
Yeah, it looks like Hose. Yeah.
If you look at the title, the way they have the letters made, It
Let's
looks
see.
like it says
And,
hosed.
and
now
as soon as you see
you'll
it,
never
Tony, you won't
unsee
ever,
it.
yeah.
Yeah,
let
it's
me-
the only way you'll ever see it again.
Yeah, let me see.
I thought that title was.
Oh yeah, I can see it.
I thought that title was like specially for Brandy because like that's like Cody's. Cody was the TNT title, and so Brandy gets this one instead.
So, Callum, you mentioned someone like along the lines of Charlotte Flair going over to AEW, but just without like the flair of Charlotte Flair right now. Is there really anyone that you can see going over there in the near future who's on the star level of a Charlotte Flair?
No, there's only like 3 women in WWE that could even, or even in the comparable zone to Charlotte, and that's the other 3 members of the 4 Horsewomen, and they all seem to be pretty popular and liked backstage. So I don't feel that they would go.
I feel like it's 1A and B, and then the other 2 are further down at this point.
Probably. But to be fair, like Sasha is actually does generate quite significant ratings. For SmackDown.
You're right.
I was going to say Sasha is definitely. I would almost rank Sasha slightly above
She's
them just
mainstream.
because she's in Mandalorian, dude.
Yeah. I get that. I just feel like WWE just doesn't do a good job booking her, and they do not view her the same way. I get that we as an audience might view the same that way. WWE has never done anything to show me that they put her on the same level of Becky or even Charlotte or even Bayley. I feel like they treat Bayley better than her when it comes to actual title reigns at this point. But like you guys said, it's just a prop. So what does it matter?
I mean, from WWE's point of view, Charlotte's the tippy top. Becky got to a popularity point that they want to, keep that train going. Sasha's great for you win the title and you drop it next week kind of deal. And Bayley's like the good hand kind of deal. And then from the fans, it seems like it's like, all right, well, Sasha's in this completely different kind of realm. Becky is the Stone Cold of the group. Flair's we all know that Flair's there, whatever. And Bayley's hey, let's give her some better stuff going on. Like,
so what would be their actual Horseman equivalents now if we were to actually look at these as the Horsemen? Like, is Charlotte even Rick?
Charlotte's Pestilence.
Who's deaf then? Out of those ones.
Becky.
I'd
Lynch.
say that I think Charlotte is still strikes me as Rick, just because I feel like Rick would be the one most vocal about his positioning backstage. I don't think like Arn, Tully, or whichever other member of the 4 Horsemen you want to apply in this situation would be.
Dean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
sorry. Oli.
Yeah.
Oli.
Oh, you want to go early? You want to go out? Okay. Yeah, I'd say that. I still think Charlotte's Rick.
That's
I think
fair.
Becky. I think Becky's more in the. Becky's more. Yeah, Becky's Arn. Yeah.
Becky's definitely
she's
Arn.
got the killer promos, and she's just no nonsense. Go in there, kick your butt. Yeah, she's Arn.
Bayley's Oli, just because she's the one that's like everyone like knows is good, but just never really gets the same sort of level of appreciation. I feel like
It's better though.
That's why I wouldn't have gone with Oli. I would have probably said Barry, and
that's better fit.
I'd put Bayley as Tully Blanchard, just as always has the belt, solid hand, can do whatever you need. And then Sasha would be in the Barry Windham, like great worker, can easily main event anything, and is always going to play second fiddle to Rick.
If you had to add a JJ Dillon, who would be the equivalent that you would add?
Stephanie McMahon created women's wrestling, Tony.
I mean, Paige.
Paige could be a choice. Yeah. I mean, who's actually like managed any of those women? The only person who's actually managed any of them is either Rick or Dana Brooke.
Well, Dana Brooke being a JJ Dillon.
Technically managed Charlotte in NXT.
No, but I mean, like, she's still part of the actual. She can't be JJ Dillon and one of the 4 Horsemen.
I mean, it'd be interesting. She probably could if she wanted to. WWE likes to book weird shit like nowadays.
Peter suggests Alexa Bliss.
Yeah, if she was kept in a manager role, I think she would have progressed so much better and been so much better received by the fans.
Who, Bliss?
Yes.
I mean, I think everybody kind of agrees. Alexa's not the best in-ring worker, but she overall, her general scope, her character work is just so good in a lot of ways that it just becomes like, yeah, of course, like, give her the championship every once in a while and everything.
She's regressed the women's division, though. Like when we talk about how we had the women's evolution come in and shake things up, and now we've gone back to these 2-3 minute matches. Alexa Bliss is a big reason for that.
You think it's
fucking
kind of on her?
wild.
Well, I don't think it's entirely on her. It's on a. There are a number of women that would fit into that kind of category. I'd say Zelina fits into that category. Zelina should be a manager. The fact that she's Queen of the Ring is like a bit insulting, really. Just that she's not a good worker. So
Obviously, they just brought Eva Marie in recently, and Eva Marie can't work.
Yeah.
Nia Nia really doesn't do well in the ring. Like, she injures people all the time. We've talked about it a million times. And she is kind of, after a couple minutes of Nia dominating somebody, all right, just kind of skip to the end. Like,
well, just think about this, Tony. Who has the 3 women's belts in NXT right now?
Yeah, Toxic Attraction right now. So there's a completely different philosophy that they're booking it now.
20-30 minute workers right there.
Right. I think we're firmly in an era where they're saying, well, we tried, and then it's insert whatever the topic is. So let's go back to insert whatever the alternative is. Like, I've said it for a couple years now when we got to, like, the way that Vince has been bringing people back into the company and kind of revisiting old ideas, like the Roman and Brock thing. I think that whole build to Roman and Brock that last time around, not just the crown jewel, but the whole Mania SummerSlam type thing. I think that was him going, nope, I had it right the first time, and you guys are going to watch it play out because I want to do what I want to do. And I think that...
Is it that, or is it they just have no other stars to make big matches with?
I think it's kind of combo. I think it's like that they are so tunnel visioned that they forced that hand in some ways. And then, like, I think that the NXT switch over was them going, well, we tried the indie shit. You didn't want to fucking watch that. You watched AEW. So you know what? We're going back to the way that it was before. And the Women's Evolution, I think it's in the same kind of regard where they're like, well, we did the Women's Evolution thing and it didn't lead to ratings. So you know what? We're back to Divas era. But we just don't want to call it that because we don't want the negative backlash for it.
It kind of like strikes me a lot about the fact that these two changes in particular just kind of strike me with, again, it's just pure speculation, but it does feel like Triple H and Stephanie's inheritance, as it were, is now falling out. It's falling out of their grasp.
Yeah, Nick Khan came in and he was like, "How about we get rid of those two?" And then they're like, "Well, we can't really do that." And he's like, "How about we just give them no power?"
Two people came in, Nick Khan and Bruce Pritchard, and now like Triple H has gone from a kind of creative capacity. NXT's no longer kind of his thing anymore, and he was a huge proponent for like the women's evolution and revolution and trying to push all that stuff forward, and now that's seemingly regressed. So it feels like he's losing a lot of power backstage.
And Peter in the chat had also said, "This is a mailbag. How do we know that Charlotte's not about to quit and we get releases?" Because not the last two mailbags, but two.
That apparently belongs to Ring of Honor today. They've let go of everybody from their contracts.
Everybody. What?
Everybody. So they have said that they'll run through Final Battle this year, and then they're going to take off the first quarter of next year to reimagine all of Ring of Honor. So the way this works is talent releases are effective at the end of the year, and if the contract goes beyond that, they will be paid until March 31st. That is per Sean Ross Sapp on Twitter. And yeah, that belongs to Ring of Honor today. So we did get the releases. It just wasn't WWE this time.
Okay. We got to stop doing mailbags if this is the thing. This is the third mailbag that's happened where it's been like, a giant amount of people from a company have been fired during the mailbag. Oh my God, what the hell? So they're releasing everybody, but they're paying them through March?
Yeah, if their contract didn't expire this year. If it goes beyond this year, they'll pay them through March.
Wow.
They're not they're not saying they're folding.
No, I got their official statement right here. They posted this on their Twitter today at 3:24 p.m. So this is like breaking news. This just happened like in the last hour.
Yeah, it's mailbag curse.
Throughout the pandemic, this is a quote from their official statement, by the way. Throughout the pandemic, our top priority was to keep everyone healthy and safe. And despite not producing any live events over 18 months, we were able to keep everyone fully contracted. We now find ourselves at a time where we need to make changes to our business operations and are planning to a pivot for Ring of Honor with a new mission and strategy. This year will culminate with a final battle in December. We will be taking the first quarter of 2022 to work internally to a reimagined Ring of Honor. Ring of Honor has the most dedicated fans in the industry, and we appreciate their loyalty and patience as we reconceptualize Ring of Honor. We anticipate returning to live events in April for the Supercard of Honor with a new fan-focused product and provide a unique experience for wrestling fans.
Well, if it's a fan-focused product, they might just hire all the fans and just get them to do backyard wrestling instead, because that seems that all they're going to be left with. It's such a... Honestly, it's not... It's weirdly... It's expected, but I would have expected this a year ago when we're like at the peak of the pandemic.
Right, like you could have... I guess they didn't want to because of what WWE did, though.
I guess so, but it's just a case of you run all of these shows in front of no fans for ages and ages and ages, and it's just now was the time you decide, yeah, let's let everybody go and let's spend 4 months just rethinking what Ring of Honor is supposed to be going forward. Because essentially, like the company's lost all buzz that it once had. I mean, they lost it as soon as the Elite left, and then they've just plodded along for 2 years and now decided, okay, now's the time to hit the reset button.
Maybe they were hoping that over the course of these past couple of months that things would have stabilized in a different way, and now they're running into not having the money to really kind of keep this going. This doesn't sound actually as bad as I thought that it would. It sounded at first when you said like they were let go of everybody. It seemed like that was like, all right, shit, company folded. But if they're basically taking 3 months to sort of...
Well, but if they're letting people legitimately go from their contract, Jonathan Gresham to AEW, Briscoes to AEW, you know what I mean? Like, there are other more secure places to work. It's not like, unless they've told them internally, hey, we're going to do this, please don't go anywhere else, we have plans and we have a clear course of action. It sounds like they could, who's to say they ever come back, you know what I mean?
Did you say Todd Gresham?
I said Jonathan Gresham.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the announcer that Tony hates.
No, not Todd Gresham, not the It's Christian guy.
Yeah, it's Christian.
It's Christian.
I kind of get the impression that this would just be, well, you know what? We don't have enough money, and we're going to let people go because we just can't afford to keep paying them. We'll pay them if we kind of are contractually obligated to, but let's take off a couple of months. Let's try to figure out how we can renegotiate some other contracts, and then we'll try to kick off some kind of resurgence. Maybe that'll get some more buzz our way, and we'll do some like, hey, we're back, and are you guys going to talk about us kind of deal? Kind of feels like that to me.
Just feels so bizarre about the fact that, like, in particular, spent so long just discussing women's wrestling. They just crowned their new women's champion after like a long hiatus without that title around, and so it's just a few months later, it's like, yep, her and everyone else is getting released from their contract as well as everyone else. It seems like this was a rushed decision. Doesn't feel like it was something that they've been planning for a while.
Well, I think what a lot of people tend to forget, because they look at Ring of Honor and they think, oh, it's just an indie. They're owned by a multi-million-dollar broadcasting company. So these decisions are very likely made from people sitting around a board table in a building somewhere, and not people actually in the Ring of Honor offices. Oh
yeah, I imagine that most people that are making the decisions behind this probably haven't watched an episode of Ring of Honor in their entire lives, but like that's
so
it's kind of the Nick Khan thing. Like Nick Khan's just looking at this and going, well, Bray Wyatt is $1 million-something contract. Is he making enough money to justify that? Nope, then cut him. It doesn't matter if he's, a big part of this part, the creative side of things or whatever. Like, so it could this is Sinclair, right? Still Sinclair? Yeah. So they could just be like, all right, well, Ring of Honor's not doing whatever. We need to refocus. Just let everybody go, and we'll just do that. Kind of like the WCW. Fuck it. We'll just get rid of it. Kind of deal.
Yeah. I mean, the most interesting thing is the fact that these people will be released from their contracts. So as Rob rightly points out, they could most of them will seek out employment,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's temporary or not. Because at the end of the day, AEW and WWE can't sign everybody the Ring of Honor release. They've
Impact's
got,
just kind of, you can't
Yeah.
sign everybody.
Yeah.
It's one of the weirdest things as well. Is the case of I think I've seen like Sean Ross Sapp and other people talking about this, about the fact that like I don't know where Impact makes their money. I don't know how Impact makes money.
They don't.
It just doesn't make sense to
They're
me.
another one that's surviving off of a bigger broadcasting company that owns them.
What if it
Yeah, I
turns out
know.
they've just been laundering money this entire time? It's just some crazy shit. Just like
Yeah, but
off
I
the
just-
fucking chains.
Yeah, but I just imagine like that people at Anthem that have no idea about this or anything, or don't pay attention to Impact or anything like that. They just look at that and feel like, why is there this giant red hole in our like earnings all the time? Why are we persisting with this thing? And like some guy there is just like super pumped about pro wrestling, just going, no, just let it go.
All I'm saying is Impact Wrestling is going to have a very interesting Dark Side of the Ring episode someday.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I was just about to say maybe it's like Office Space. They just keep forgetting they're sending a check to someone, and it's TNA right now.
It's,
I'm just waiting for
the TNA Championship is like the swing line stapler.
I'm just waiting for the
God, dude.
I'm just
So
waiting
you know
for
who
the
actually-
reenactment of Dixie Carter sending that email about Vince Russo being there still. That's the one thing I'm looking forward to.
So who I think actually stands the best chance actually from this news is NWA. They're the ones who I think can step up and fill this gap that Ring of Honor will leave there and take on a lot of this talent, because unless they're like the really high names, I don't know, what the fuck is WWE going to do with El Bandito? You know, like
Well,
this is go ahead. I'm sorry.
so Bandito was one of those names that was actually, there was a bidding war for him between WWE and AEW. And I guess Ring of Honor was like, here, we'll throw, they could have made him an offer, like, we'll throw this money at you and you'll be world champion, because he is world champion right now. So Bandito is somebody who I think won't have trouble finding work. I'm thinking about like the Beer City Bruiser and the Bouncer, like the NWA maybe, because NWA just running a hot angle of Trevor Murdoch being attacked by Mike Knox. So we're all excited about so it's like I don't think this will be too much of a shakeup, except the Briscoes are long overdue to be on TV, and they can be with AEW, assuming, because WWE doesn't know what to do with tag teams. EC3, I don't know, man. Maybe he just
seems
said, "I'll
to
go
want to
train
do
somewhere," yeah.
like indie films or something.
Dude,
Yeah.
you should just go to New Japan or something like that.
Would AEW risk signing the Briscoes?
Well,
Considering their history, they are very quick to toe this the political correct line. So I feel like the Briscoes would be a step too far for them.
But I feel like it's weird because the people that like AEW and like that, they like the Briscoes and they know. So maybe
Don't
they
the
got
Young
back-
Bucks
they got
have a
backlash
good
for this
relationship with them?
yeah.
I mean, like if Young Bucks are okay with them, I'm sure that in general they'll be fine getting along there.
Oh no, I don't mean like backstage. I mean like the fact that like they've got loads of images out there about them waving Confederate flags around, and you know what Twitter's like.
Like that was literally their gimmick for over a decade, though. I don't think you can escape that. While
Well, no, you can't escape it, but like Ring of Honor is like a perfect place for them because it was kind of like a bit more below the surface. Whereas, like as soon as someone like that signs for any big company, there's always these people without lives on Twitter that are just immediately trying to dig up every single bit of information about them and just try to post it out there. It's like, see,
Happened to me on
Bialik.
Bialik for Jeopardy of all things.
I mean,
He
they
went,
brought
he,
in
went to
Nick
the, he went to the
Gage.
bathroom once and peed and didn't wash his hands, so like cancel him like immediately. That's like
I'm looking at the ROH roster right now. I don't know most of these people, and that's just because I don't watch Ring of Honor because I don't have the time. But like, I've heard of some of these names, so it's like, yeah, I've heard of Danhausen, and I'm assuming that
he'll get a job.
he'll go to AEW or Impact. And I've heard of Dalton Castle. I've heard of Bandito. I would assume that somebody like an Angelina Love, she's been around long enough that maybe she shows up for like NWA as kind of one of these like more legacy types.
Yeah, Velvet Sky is there. She can always just do
I
something.
know it's guys
with that.
NWA.
Yeah, I think she's NWA.
Yeah.
So
She's like a commentator.
Yeah.
she could just pop in and do something with that. This Future of Honor, like a guy like a Flex Simmons, I don't know anything about him, but it's like, yeah, maybe he wrestles on Dark once in a while or something. And
Brian Johnson can get a TNT title match.
I mean, Brian's a different story. Brian, I know personally. So I've been championing Brian for the longest time. I know that he's not only a talented talker and that he's good in the ring, but I know that he's just a damn good guy. So like, I want Brian to just be like, hey, go to AEW, go to WWE, dude. Like, why hasn't it happened yet? Kind of thing. Like,
right, but like, wouldn't he have that in with like a Bear Country? Could say, hey, at least get Brian on Dark. And then...
I mean, between Nick and Tommy, I would assume that Brian would be good with AEW.
Right.
So I'm hoping, out of anybody, if I were to say like, hey, I'm hoping somebody goes somewhere, it's Brian. But that's just because he's my friend. But like, when it comes to ignoring that kind of special bias, like,
So
I'm curious about like a Jay Lethal, because Jay Lethal is a guy that he could be the type of person, Bennett too, where they might just go, I'll stick around and see what happens. A lot of people probably will just stick around at ROH and see what happens.
does
Jay
this mean
Lethal
Chris
might be
Hero?
one of them.
I mean, if these contracts last until March and their reboot is happening in April,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're taking a 1 month risk there. Like,
Right.
you're not really missing too much.
Yeah, so it's like somebody like a Jay Lethal in particular, or an EC3, or Bennett, or a PCO, or PJ Black, especially like those names that wouldn't be like, all right, I can go to this other company and start making a name for myself. I'd probably be like, fuck it, we'll see what happens in a month.
Yeah.
Rhett Titus
I'm sure
isn't
it's
going to
gonna
go
be-
anywhere and make a big difference, and get that push for his career and be that top guy for 20 more years. Like, it's that's passed by.
I think the people that might get serious looks from like AEW or WWE will be LFI, like Roosh and those guys, because they're good with Andrade. I think the Briscoes, like I said, just because they're good with everybody. Jay Lethal, I think, sticks around, but if anything, he might be one of the ones who says, if I want to wrestle, I'll go to NWA. I don't see Jay Lethal going to AEW because of all the backstage stuff that's always come out about him with like speaking out and stuff like that.
Do you guys think someone like Chris Hero goes to AEW as a producer?
Oh, I think Chris Hero goes to AEW as a wrestler, player coach
Please
kind of thing.
no.
I can't see any of these people going to WWE.
No.
I think it's
highly
all
unlikely.
the other companies.
It's quite weird because Ring of Honor was their like former farm essentially of like talent. That's where they got basically everybody that went through NXT from. So it now seems like, as we said earlier, they've gone into a completely different direction. So nobody from Ring of Honor really fits. Maybe a couple will sneak through the neck. I don't know. I don't know if some of these people from like Future of Honor are like the right fit for it, but it seems unlikely. Ring of Honor tends to lean towards the more technical, smaller guys.
We're just going to hear about Dak Draper or something, like just one of these random names will be like, yep, we picked up that guy.
He's got a dumb name, so he'd fit in WWE.
I don't know anything about the women either, like Jenny Rose. I know that I've heard of Mandy Leon before, but I've never really seen any of her work. I think I've heard of Mariah Manic, but I might be mixing her up with somebody else. So it's just sort of, at the very least, there's the option that they pop up somewhere else, which is pretty interesting. That's kind of neat to track the idea that over the course of the next couple of months, we might be seeing ROH people on AEW. We might be seeing them on Impact. We might pop up on NXT. That is a youth movement. Maybe they do get some of these people and go, let's give them a shot. Hopefully a better shot than they did with some of the other more recent younger talent that they signed, like August Gray and Kurt Stallion, where they're like, let's give him a shot in October and release him in April. Just be like, nope, you're fucking done. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
We have a super
my
chat here
older
from
crowd-
Handicap Cloud. Happy 10 years, guys. It's been a while, Ryan, so far. It's cool to hear Drew and Peyton's voices again. Thank you, Cloud.
Is it weird, like, as an older person, seeing these younger wrestlers and you're just now realizing they're younger than you? Is that weird?
It really
I get
upset
it
me
all
when I
the time.
referred to Velveteen Dream as kid one time instinctively. I was just like, this kid's guy. And I'm like, God damn it. I shouldn't be able to say that.
I mean,
Only
you shouldn't. You're
25.
really saying like Velveteen Dream and Kid in the same sentence anymore, really.
Right.
anyway.
Yeah, you really should try not to.
But no, there's
Didn't,
there's young people that like, I mean, MJF is in his early 20s. And
Well, I'm starting to realize now that I'm older than when Brock Lesnar won the WWE Championship, and I feel like I haven't accomplished anything. I'm a worthless piece of shit. You know, what am I doing?
Wow, Drew's having his midlife crisis live on
yeah,
the air.
at 25, yeah, live on the air.
what are you talking about? You never accomplished anything. You did an outro at McDonald's.
Yeah, I did an outro at McDonald's. Yeah, what am I talking about? I've accomplished everything I've ever wanted to. I've won like
Yeah, Brock's never done that.
yeah, Brock's not won co-host of the year. He's never done that.
Drew, if it makes you feel any better, just keep in mind that these guys keep wrestling for another 20, 30 years above your
Well,
age.
obviously.
So.
Well, I was hoping you guys go, I don't know, dude. Fucking Shawn Michaels is still wrestling technically, so they never so I don't know.
Yeah, what gets sad is that when people start like retiring and dying when they're younger than you, that's when you start like, oh, damn, now I'm old.
Also, to be honest, you didn't win the best co-host of the year either. So
I don't know. It said I did.
you
Didn't
totally rigged that one. I know you did.
Nah, dog. I wouldn't do that. I have nothing better to do than to do that, dude.
Well, we all form a co-host of the year.
I think so.
I won it twice. That's yeah. I think we all won it.
It's probably on the wiki somewhere. I don't know. Check out the wiki, everybody. But checking up a couple other things in this chat here. I guess 5 said can't stay. I'll watch the re-upload. Happy 10th. Smarkings, Peps. I'm assuming peeps. I don't know. Maybe we are just Peps. Peter says, if you ask me, WWE should sign Will Ferrell and Chris Dickinson.
Will Ferrell?
Farah.
I think it's about Will Ferrara, yeah.
Ferrara, okay. Frankie says Dalton Castle still in ROH. And he's carrying on with the
He might get a
conversation.
look
Castle
at
can
AEW.
maybe work in WWE.
AEW might give him a look.
I mean, to be fair, he's like, I don't think they'd have him and Rick Boogs in the same like roster because they're pretty much like mirrors of each other.
Oh, he's got that kind of
Exactly.
character.
Well, one, it's more like that. It actually looks pretty similar to him as well.
Yeah.
But Boogs
Very-
is funnier
very
to say
youthful.
then. Boogs.
Well, his name wouldn't be Dalton Castle if he went to WWE. It'd be something like
Coogs.
John
I don't
McGee
want to say anything because it's going to come across offensive, probably.
Well, now I'm curious. What,
Well,
I don't know
It's
anything
just-
about him.
It's just the way that his character is very flamboyant. So
Okay, I know where you're going with this.
yeah, exactly. And I'm not saying anymore.
I know nothing about Dalton Castle except for his name. So to me, I'm just kind of like, I don't know what would be offensive about it.
Let's
but-
just put it this way. He had 2 young stud guys that were like his lackeys, and he referred to them as his boys.
Yeah, I mean, his whole thing was he was kind of like a Freddie Mercury kind of over the top showmanship kind of, and he had his boys with him and all that. I don't think he would do that gimmick in WWE, but there's definitely a place for a Dalton Castle, and he's done the Jericho Cruise, so I can imagine him getting at least a look at AEW.
When you said he's got 2 young studs next to him or whatever, I'm just thinking Big John Stud, but like two smaller guys. Let's go to another mailbag question here. Let's go to this kind of oddball thing from Howard. If you could choose an actor as a pro wrestler, for example, Vin Diesel, Jason Momoa, or maybe even somebody like comedy relief like Michael Richards, who would you choose and why? What about Dwayne Johnson? I think that actor
I don't
could
know,
probably
I
be a
don't
good
think that would
wrestler.
work.
Yeah, I don't think that would ever work.
Yeah,
You see that guy getting in the ring at some point? I don't know.
nah.
I mean, it would be like, well, you're just looking at action stars, right? Realistically, there's people that
For the
would
most
actually
part, yeah.
work.
Well,
for
he
wrestlers.
brings up what about like a comedy relief type person too? I mean, you could have somebody that's more on like the Orange Cassidy side, or you know,
Yeah,
I
a,
bet
Drew
David
Carey.
Arquette would be a good wrestler.
Drew Carey, yeah, that'd be good. Snooki.
she's not an actor.
No, let's get Poppy in there.
Yeah.
Trying to think about like who, because there's not many like big like there's no Schwarzenegger types anymore, really.
Tony, we were talking before the show. Someone who is very charismatic now and is pretty jacked to the bone. Channing Tatum. He could do it.
Maybe. Yeah, he might be able to pull off something like that. Yeah. It's weird too
it's
because
good
you
match,
never
too.
really know like how big these people are until they stand next to the wrestlers either. Because some people look like they're huge on screen, and then you put them next to
It's not
even a
just that,
smaller
too.
guy, and it ends up being like, oh
Fortunately,
shit.
Matter. It
in
also
a
depends
movie
on
with
if they're
Kevin
actually
Nash.
athletic. Oh, wait, what?
Isn't Kevin Nash in one of the Magic Mike movies?
Yeah, he
Oh,
is.
yeah,
Yeah.
he is. I forgot about those.
Good old Super Shredder. Like somebody who's like superhero type, like a Chris Hemsworth. He's going to be playing Hulk Hogan in that movie. I'm so interested to see what that it comes out to be. But like he looks huge. And if you put him next to somebody that might even be like a John Morrison, he might not look all that big. It's deceptive how big the wrestlers are sometimes. And then some other times too, like Dace has been like, yeah, I towered over Shawn Michaels. And it's like, oh, really? Like you're just Dace, like
you gotta remember, Tony. It's like Eddie Guerrero wasn't that tall either. So it's like a lot of these work rate people who we view as like these amazing superstars. They didn't get many WWE title reigns because of their short statures in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
It's funny because you have someone like Bo Burnham who's going to be playing Larry fucking Bird in like a movie coming up too. So you don't necessarily need to be like the most athletic person technically to be a wrestler by any accounts. You have Orange Cassidy, who's not very fucking big, and he's one of the most over people in all wrestling right now.
I think playing a basketball player in a movie is a bit different than having to do a wrestling match.
True, but a lot of these people
size-
take those roles seriously, and they like get very athletic. What's his face lost? I don't want to say. There's plenty of actors who have lost a lot of weight and then gained it all back, or gained a lot of weight because of roles.
But they're not going to do that for a match unless the key ingredient is how passionate are they about wrestling.
Yeah,
if they
that's
care
true.
and if they want to go out there and put out a good performance, that's when you'll get it. And size hasn't necessarily been the factor, because if you think of some of the best performances we've seen from people that came in, you're looking at Bad Bunny, you're looking at Steve Amell, I mean, you're looking at Floyd Mayweather. I mean, these are the smaller end of the people that you had come in. I mean, Drew Carey didn't go out there and light the world on fire. Yeah, it was fun, but he didn't go out there and, have a 3-minute roll around with freaking Kurt Angle.
A big point of this, like I brought up Channing Tatum's name over it. Like, yes, he's big and he's a very, like, when you look at him, he looks fucking muscular as shit. That doesn't necessarily mean he's athletic. There's plenty of jacked up ass people who can't fucking move at all. So that's something that should be accounted for in these discussions. So
Cloud
what we're
brings up
saying
Henry
is-
Cavill, which is like Henry Cavill's a big fucking guy, and if he gets dedicated to something, he is dedicated like all hell. So if he were into pro wrestling, I have no idea if he is or not, but like Henry Cavill could be. I mean, that you're looking at a guy there, handsome as all hell, jacked to shit. That could be your John Cena if he was able to pull that off. I could see that being the case.
I mean, focusing a lot on the men's side of things. What about Rosario Dawson? She got physical with
Yeah, she
Malachi
did.
Black recently, so maybe she'd be up for it.
Who are like some more like action-y actresses that could be into that? Because I mean, we're in a weird
Michelle
time
Rodriguez?
frame.
We really didn't mention any females that could be wrestlers as well, and throughout all this too.
Listen, I did say Poppy at some point. You guys know Soul.
Yeah.
So
I know it did. Yeah. Well, I said Snooki as well.
Yeah, but that doesn't
Ugh.
fucking count.
Well, Poppy has openly said she doesn't want to do it.
Well, yeah, I was thinking like Michelle
Yeah,
Rodriguez
well,
would be a fit.
so
would
did
be a
Shawn
fit for
Michaels.
The Rodriguez
You know,
thing, yeah, maybe.
It'd be interesting if they could get one of these gymnastics like world champions to fucking be like a wrestler for like one fucking match. Just
Oh my
imagine
God.
the gymnastics shit that Jim Cornette would lose his mind over.
Bring in Simone Biles and have her wrestle in like the South.
Oh, God damn,
Fuck,
dude.
man.
Fucking hell.
What the fuck?
What the heck?
For some reason, I'm thinking Paula Patton.
I don't know who that is.
Yeah, I don't know what the fuck you're talking
She's she was in Mission Impossible 4.
How many Mission Impossibles were there?
That the Ghost Protocol one. For some reason, that's the name that's coming to my mind about like, oh, maybe she could be a wrestler. Out of all the names, Paul Patton is the one that's coming to my brain. Cloud brings up Charlize Theron. I mean, she's definitely dedicated to her roles. If she got into pro wrestling, maybe she could pull it off. She's done some action stuff. She's attractive,
They did
Oh.
things mocking
Hauser.
Rosie O'Donnell in the past. Maybe that.
Oh, Jesus.
I got a name that would be a fun name to see how this would all play out. Not necessarily well, but just interesting. Keanu
about.
Reeves.
Latifah?
Oh, I'd watch that.
Latifah too, but Keanu Reeves pops in my mind. It's like, I would love to
In
see
his
what he would
younger
do as a
days.
pro wrestler. Like the
Unless he was a
woe version of
guest
in
him.
the 2000s, like now.
Yeah, not now, but I mean,
I don't know,
like
dude.
you know, old
Imagine
school
if he was a
Keanu.
guest host during the guest host era. That would have been incredible.
Keanu's cool. Frankie brings up Mark Ruffalo channels his inner Hulk.
I was thinking like that. Is that Liev Schreiber, the guy that was supposed to play Benoit in that biopic?
He was Sabretooth in one of the X-Men movies.
Well, Hugh Jackman would probably like we know that he got involved in as one of the Raw guest hosts.
Frankie also
Yeah,
brings up,
probably
let's
have
have
some
Jason Sudeikis pretend to be a comedy wrestler.
Yeah, he's already pretending to be a comedian.
Oh my God.
Have Jason Sudeikis and Olivia Wilde as a... Oh, wait, no, they broke up, didn't they? I think. Well, that could have been like a Miz and Maurice type of thing.
She's done with she's Olivia Wilde with Harry Styles now, I believe.
Huh.
John Mulaney and Olivia Munn already broke up.
I'm just glad that you didn't say Pete Davidson, because it seems like everybody just dates that guy.
That poor guy.
The poor guy.
Yeah, poor guy. He got married.
Poor guy's been like...
but not married. He got engaged. Poor motherfucker.
It seems with like Kate Beckinsale and stuff too. It's like, yeah, that poor motherfucker.
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine. My life would be miserable if I just got an ounce of that guy's fucking life.
Frankie says Betty White can still bump.
Yeah, man, Betty White would be like freaking
Mae Young. Like, yeah.
Just like taking crazy bumps as an old lady.
I think she turns 100 in a couple of months.
You know, if anybody was going to play Mae Young in a movie, it would be Betty White. Right?
Well,
Yeah.
the last part.
Yeah, I mean, obviously not. Yeah. I don't know. Fucking cast her for the other parts too. Cast her when she's
Yeah, they should just use like age, like just also much CGI for that.
De-aging type. Oh, we got a super chat from Justin Spencer. Who do you think should win the Raw Women's title match next Monday? Should Bianca win, or should WWE capitalize with the backstage heat of Charlotte? They're doing a redo of that.
I think it's
doing,
Becky and Bella.
yeah.
Well, Tony, it's not like you have anything else going on this week. But yeah, since you apparently didn't watch Raw, they're doing Bianca and Becky on Monday.
Oh, I'm thinking that's Bianca and Charlotte. I'm reading the question wrong.
Becky's gonna win that match.
Yeah, Becky wins.
No question about
Becky
that.
should, but also like they should let Bianca beat Becky once.
Look, Becky. When was the last time Becky took a pinfall? Why would it be on a random Monday Night Raw?
I think it was Asuka.
No, Sasha beat her. Sasha beat her on SmackDown.
Oh, that's right. No, okay, yeah, Sasha did beat her on SmackDown.
I just don't think they would waste a title loss for something. Oh my god, my thing is falling everywhere.
Oh my god.
Well, that's a Drew moment.
Drew just lost the Squid Game.
Yeah. Well, I think the answer's obvious. There's going to be a DQ.
Yeah, it'll be a DQ.
Yeah.
Who should win? I mean, they're in a weird position now where it kind of has to be Becky, but I would have liked.
If it's not, then it's going to be what's the real heat between Becky and Charlotte that they can't even wrestle each other at Survivor Series?
Right. So kind of answers that question.
I think more about this actor question. Did any of you guys ever see Hulk Hogan Celebrity Championship Wrestling?
Yes.
I haven't.
The most. I think I was just watching it at one time. It just came on like Challenge TV or something like that in the UK, and just like it was Hulk Hogan, Eric Bischoff, and Jimmy Hart, obviously as the judges, and it was just a bunch of just absolute like D-list celebrities. Like it was Frank Stallone's Sylvester Stallone's brother or cousin or something. Dustin Diamond.
Yeah.
Screech on it. Dennis Rodman won it, of course.
Which he should. Like,
I'm looking at
who is that other guy? That guy that had a match with Eric Young on a TNA pay-per-view inside a cage.
You're gonna lose me on that one.
Yeah.
You would be the only person that watched that. So
some D-list actor. I can't remember his name right now, but he was also part of that. Hulk Hogan's done some really D-level shit since retiring from wrestling.
Yeah, like that.
Danny Bonaducci.
Danny Bonaducci, there it is.
I'm looking at a couple articles that people have written up before about actors who could be, who could make sense for wrestlers. Like, there's the Michelle Rodriguez thing. There's like people brought up like Chris Evans and whatnot.
Remember Jenna Maraska?
Denai Guerrera, the one who's the head of the Dora Milaje in Black Panther. Like, yeah, you know what? I can see that. She's pretty badass. So somebody brought up Wesley Snipes.
What about Jason Statham?
Statham, yeah, he could have been. He's athletic in some ways. Terry Crews is mentioned. Zoe Saldana is mentioned. Tom Hardy. Mila Jovovich. A lot of names that you kind of expect, the Vin Diesels and such.
Yeah, and he'd at least look the part.
If anybody has any other suggestions, drop them in the comments. I'm really curious. There's lots of different actors that are out there that could potentially do that.
I'd rather just get Ryback back.
Oh my god, dude. I love Ryback, but dude, that guy is so fucking insane and it's amazing to watch.
His most recent Twitter stuff has been, feuding.
Well, no, his Twitter stuff is him complaining about how he says Twitter is censoring him because he gets so much more interaction on TikTok than he does on Twitter. Which, hey, maybe he's true about that. Maybe there's some truth to that, but I don't know. He is just
waiting to join Retire.
Dude, yeah. I love those. I love those. Dude, that's the greatest. Hey, and honestly, my favorite thing Ryback has ever done is like the video of him like rolling through the McDonald's drive-thru, or no, the Starbucks drive-thru, saying he's gonna get like a Starbucks coffee, playing his music full blast, and then just driving off and not getting anything. It's like the greatest. He is just the best troll ever. Like, dude, WWE fucked that up so much, man. He should have beat the streak. That's the issue.
What was the recurring joke before about Ryback thinks he's a good prankster and he's just like, and like whatever. I forget exactly what it was, but it was one of those old timey jokes.
Yo, oos.
Cloud says time travel and get Orson Welles to wrestle. Can you imagine the promos from Orson Welles?
Oh my god, those would be glorious.
It's just like, well, I'm gonna beat you, and just let's go to another question here from Howard. If you had time travel, and that works pretty well. If you could travel back in time to 1983, what would you have done differently in order to have Bob Backlund retain his title and not lose it? Just don't throw in the towel.
Oh my god!
What a fucking.
That's a specific.
Jeez, I don't know, man. I would have Frank Gotch beat him instead. I don't fucking know.
That's an error that's way past my calling points of being able to go, well, I think that this person should have
wrestling then.
It's directly before Hogan. I can't say that I would not want to see the Hogan era because it gave us a wrestling boom. So I'm going to let Bob Backlund lose that title.
I'm not going to make the same argument of the worst timeline is because that happened. I think that played out well enough.
So
I don't know, dude.
I have a theory with movies. There's two distinct generations of movies, okay? There's pre-Jaws and there's post-Jaws. And almost anything pre-Jaws, with very few exceptions, does not matter. Okay? In wrestling, you get the same thing. There's pre-Hogan beating the Sheik and there's post-Hogan beating the Sheik. And pretty much anything before Hogan beating the Sheik pretty much doesn't matter, with very few exceptions. And this, I'm sorry, I know there's some people out there that lived in the New York area and were in Madison Square Garden for all these nights and lived through Bruno Sammartino and Bob Backlund, but that is just such a bygone thing to have any impact on anything going on these days that there's nothing to answer for that. I'm sorry.
It's kind of one of those things that that you have to respect the history of it just because it's foundational. But when somebody says like, oh, what's the best invention in the world? People don't go, the written word. And it's like, yeah, well, that is. But then you go like, okay, well, that's a boring answer. Let's talk about like the steam engine or something. Like, you have to do that with like kind of, you say like with the Jaws thing. It's like Jaws separates this idea of the blockbuster and it completely changes Hollywood. And Star Wars is another like tentpole, oh my God, everything changed kind of movie. But if you say, well, without Metropolis what is movies, and it's like, yeah, true, but is anybody ever going to mention Metropolis?
There
I
was
mean,
like a
I did.
haunted house
There's an
thing
Orson Welles thing
growing
again. We'll
up
get
that
back
was
to
called
Citizen Kane.
Metropolis growing up near me.
No, that's not the same Metropolis that's going to be mentioned then.
Oh, my bad.
But yeah, the Backlund thing is kind of obviously a huge deal at that time, but there are people that are fans now that, you know, for right or for worse, that to them it's like, oh, the Montreal screw job, what? You know, that kind of deal. But I do think that ultimately I wouldn't change it because it does lead to the Hogan stuff, and that leads to the big boom and everything like Rob's saying. I don't think I'd change it.
Yeah, like I just can't imagine saying, oh, Bob Backlund being world champion was such a better time than literally everything that happened directly because of him losing the belt to the Sheik, and then the next month, Sheik losing the belt to Hogan. Like, it's just not worth it.
If anything, I'm more offended Backlund didn't get a better run in '93.
So you'd go back in time and change it to where he doesn't lose to Diesel, maybe?
I think
I think the company would wish they did that as well, probably.
I mean, it's not worth it to have Kevin Nash do the yeah thing that he does after beating him in 3 seconds.
That's such a bizarre celebration I think I've ever seen. It just doesn't suit the big daddy
Giant
cool
guy, right?
like
Yeah.
thing. It's just like it's a guy just shaking his head constantly.
It is really strange because it's like Backlund beats Brett, and Backlund's got this, you know, multi-year type of title reign history and everything, and he eats a kick and a power bomb, and then you got Big Daddy Cool running around like he's I guess like he's Hogan because they were trying to make him Hogan, like in some ways. Let's go to guess 5's questions here. If you could direct a Pokemon film, what would you do? Any region, any characters, etc.
I'd change the first one and make it less introspective. So Tony and I are sitting there going, Tony, what is life?
Yeah, if you haven't checked out the fan tracks, listen to the one that Rob and I watched that first Pokemon movie back because we were like, I don't remember it being like this, where they're talking.
By the way, that was pre-pandemic.
That movie's a fucking trip because
really
it's
movie.
Yeah, it's a little girl being like, well, I guess my soul's gonna change this world, leave this world or whatever. Thanks for being my friend. To the clone that's wondering whether or not consciousness is what. And it's like, dude, this is the thing about like, it's Bulbasaur, catch it, throw a ball at its face. Like, yeah, it's good. I don't know, tell the first game. Make it like a 3-part trilogy where you do.
I've done that.
Like, you know, the first movie ends in like Game Corner, maybe. The second movie maybe is like Silph and Lavender Town and Fuchsia and whatnot, and the third movie's Cinnabar and the League and Catching Mewtwo. Maybe that.
I'm sorry,
God, imagine
They've done that.
Imagine if they released an 8-part series like it was like Harry Potter or something like that, where you go through each badge, its own fucking movie, and over the span of 8 years, we see this young kid grows into this old fucking man. It wouldn't make any sense, but you know, why not? You know,
man,
nice
I'm
movie.
good. I don't need to see an 8-part. Let's stretch this out over 16 years.
I don't know, dog. That's how we make that
Pokemon.
Mooney.
Hear me out on this one, okay? Detective Pikachu, but Pikachu is voiced by Danny DeVito.
Yeah. That was at the time. That was the thing that was going around, and I mean, it seemed like that would have been great. Which Danny DeVito's response to that when somebody said, "Are you voicing Pikachu, Detective Pikachu?" and he's like, "What's a Pikachu?"
Oh my god.
Oh, Danny DeVito as a wrestler. He was the trash man.
Oh,
and
Yeah.
that's what he said in Philadelphia. He's like, I'm the garbage man. Fucking
Hey,
great.
assholes, I'm Mini-Me.
Yeah, come and get me. Is Pokemon Origins the thing you're talking about, Callum?
Well, yeah, they did like it was a 4-episode like anime of the essentially the retelling of Red's journey. So I think it's Pokemon Origins. I can't remember exactly. I know I've watched it, but like it is really, really dull because it's literally just
He went to battle,
generation
goes
Pokemon.
kind of thing.
Yeah, Yeah, like legitimately, you shouldn't do that because it's just so boring.
I mean,
Because
it's a game that's built to be a game, not a story. So you gotta
exactly.
mess around with it a little bit. You can't have like Brock and Misty because they're the gym leaders. So you need to make that. I don't know. Maybe he's got two other friends or something like Green and Blue. Maybe you don't name them Green, Blue, and Red because it's dumb. You know?
If it's a Pokemon like movie, I would do something which is more based around Team Rocket. Because they were always my most fun part of the anime for me was like those like Jesse James and Meowth. I do something like Team Rocket actually starts to dominate the world, and they're the ones that go against it and break out of that. Like they're the ones that like lead the fight against Team Rocket after that.
Then your sequel, because you like you get like the Matrix Revolutions and the Matrix whatever, like you give like these subtitles to things. The sequel could be Team Rocket is blasting off again.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it was just something like a Detective Pikachu was the only way that they could kind of go about doing that. It's just like, let's just do a story in this world kind of thing. Or maybe we could just combine all our efforts. Maybe we could have all the pro wrestlers join the Pokemon thing, and it's all like what are like some wrestler types like Machamp and Hall Lucha and whatnot. Hall Lucha versus Rey Mysterio. Book it. There you go. Any other ideas for this question before we move on?
I can't think of one.
Yeah.
Let's go to some of these Peter questions here. Do you think we'll ever get another show like The Office? Which, I mean, some of the cast were not actors, like Phyllis and Toby and whatnot. Yeah, somewhere down the line. I mean, there's probably a bunch of other ones that nobody's even heard of. The TV shows that are just sort of like a group of friends got together and did something or whatever, but maybe not mega hit type stuff as The Office, which I didn't watch until the pandemic. Didn't see a single episode until then. And then I binged the whole thing and I ended up liking it a lot.
What'd you think?
Big fan. I think it was better that I watched it that way. If I would have watched it over the course of 10 years, maybe I wouldn't have liked it as much.
I feel that way about How I Met Your Mother now.
That you watched it as like a binge, or or the opposite way?
I think I would have liked it better binging it than like I think I started really like watching it in season 3, like weekly. So I don't know.
At the very least, maybe the ending wouldn't sting so much.
Well, yeah, 'cause
Yeah,
we know
I
what
think,
was
I think
coming.
that's why he says that. Like, if you sit there and watch for 10 years and then the ending is what it is.
Yeah, you start to get, we're like, well, I've been invested in this, and that's, fuck you. Kind of deal.
I still say fuck you every day because of that.
Every day you wake up, you're like, all right, today I'm gonna go get it. I'm gonna, make some money at my job and fuck out of it, brother.
Look, every day I wake up, I open my Twitter, I send Kristen Milioti a tweet saying she should have married Ted Mosby, and that should have been the end of it. She shouldn't have died. Every day, swear to God, go check it. Joseph White on Twitter.
I look at it now and I think the ending, it makes sense. I understand why it hurt so many fans, but the ending serves the purpose of the overall story, that the story never ends.
Yeah, and also it was pretty much declared like on the first episode it was going to be like this, but wishful thinking. It's kind of like WWE, you just hope that they do the right thing and then they don't.
As a person who only watches good TV, I have absolutely no idea what it's like for a show
Oh,
to go
yeah.
at the end.
Tell me
I only
about
watch
the
stuff like
ending of Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
What's the last TV show that you guys watched that from start to finish you ended up just being like, yep, that was good?
The first 2 seasons of Master of None. I haven't watched the 3rd season yet.
So I won't say it was consistently good, but I was satisfied at the end and it never turned total shit, was Orange is the New Black. That was probably the last one.
Yeah, that had a good ending to it.
Maybe
a lot of the
Lucifer for
shows-
me.
Yeah, a lot of the shows I watched at some point, I just said, fuck it. Like, I watched Gotham all the way through, but I wasn't happy about it.
How many shows even make it to the end anymore is the problem. Like, so many shows just get canceled like halfway and then they gotta like slap together some bullshit ending.
Mm-hmm.
If they even get to do that. Sometimes they don't even know that they're ending and it just ends on a cliffhanger.
Lucifer turned out well. Brooklyn Nine-Nine, that ended up well.
The Dark Side of the Ring is not a series. That's
Documentary things don't really count.
Dark Side of the Ring, yeah. I mean, I love Dark Side of the Ring. It's possibly my favorite like wrestling related content to go out there and see. But
extremely quick side note: if you're looking for a documentary to watch that should have continued, there should have been another season of American Vandal because 1 and 2 are so good. Check that out on Netflix if you never watched that from like 10 years ago at this point. But yeah, back to the TV stuff. Like, there's the 2 that I can think of. Most other shows, it either ends like you're talking about, or you find yourself just being like, yeah, you know what, this kind of sucks now. Like, I stopped watching all that, the CW shows like The Flash. I'm just like, yeah, they just suck.
You know, I thought The Man in the High Castle was going to end really well, and then it didn't. Then it became really stupid.
Still haven't checked that out yet. Caroline is a big fan of that.
It's a good show. The ending just becomes really stupid.
I'm watching House of Cards, and I know that doesn't end the way that it's supposed to end. So I know that I'm setting myself up for disappointment in that because I'm on season 3 right now, and it's kicking some ass. But
it's like, you know, a show like The Ranch was really good, and then Danny Masterson had to be a fucking rapist and ruin that show. So I don't know.
Never even heard of The Ranch.
Oh, so it's a good Netflix show. It's actually not too bad. I know this show gets a lot of shit, but I thought the ending of The Big Bang Theory was well served for that show.
Like, if it was shit, then it was definitely well served for it.
They did Raj dirty.
Except for Raj, but I think the rest of it finished the show perfectly without it being too over dramatic and like everything is going to change just for the sake of change.
I'm trying to think of TV shows I even watch now. What the hell do I watch? Like, I mean, I watched like Heels for this season. I'm watching Titans, Young Justice, but like they kind of don't count.
Young Rock.
Young Rock's actually pretty good.
I've heard pretty good things about it. I may check it out someday. I haven't yet.
It's not great. You know, it's not the type of show that you're going to watch it and you're going to be like, oh man, this is like some Emmy type of thing. But there's some fun moments here and there. It's particularly when they get into the wrestler side of things, for being a pro wrestling fan, it's fun to see like the dude doing his Randy Savage, or like the guys that they have for Afa and Sika are like, wow, I mean, you couldn't have gotten a better casting kind of position than that. Like, a lot of those are the fun elements to it. When they start getting into a little bit more of the, like, here's the story of the time that I was flirting with this one girl and I tried to pick her up and the car was broken down. It's like, all right, well, then it's sitcom crap. So it's, you know, it is what it is.
If someone wants 18 episodes of an hour-long show over 2 seasons, I think, that ended halfway through, Freaks and Geeks is not a bad option.
That was a fun show. Yeah. That's one of those ones you binge the whole season and then you go, yeah, why didn't they do another thing with this? And then you move on.
They tried. It was called Undeclared with
that's true.
How I Trained Your Dragon Kid. Which both of them are good shows, by the way. Like, the fact that they lasted like 2 seasons or a season and a half in one season is just fucking stupid, you know? There's so much garbage on television, but decent shows like that by Judd Apatow or whatever fuck, you know?
I liked Only Murderers in the Building on Hulu. That was pretty good with Martin Short, Steve Martin, and Selena Gomez.
Okay. If you guys want to like watch a game show, you guys should watch The Moment of Truth. That show is insane and it's incredible. You should watch it.
So I got a real question. Who's watched Roads to the Top?
I've watched.
Tell me about it.
Most of it.
I watched 3 episodes, I think.
I just want to tell you about my favorite scene, okay? So they've been building up this drama between Cody's wife, Brandy, and Cody's sister. And Cody's sister is,
right?
She doesn't see Brandy as being worthy of being in the Rhodes family because it's this legendary family or whatever, and they just always had heat with each other. But in order to try to make amends, because, you know, Cody and Brandy are married now and they're having child, she's like, all right, well, I'm going to give her this gift. I'm going to give her this bracelet that my mother gave to me. That was it's an heirloom, and I'm going to give it to you. So eventually you can give it to your daughter and it'll just keep going passed down the family. And, you know, Brandy gets it and she thinks, oh, that was, you know, actually a nice gesture. You know, maybe she's not so bad. And Cody, this freaking jerk, has been stoking these things the whole time. But what he says here is one of the creepiest freaking things he ever says. He goes there and he says, "No, you don't understand. My sister's just like me. What she does is she gives you that, and she knows she's got you. See, when I give someone something, then I know I own them. They own
Ew.
me." Yeah, and he says it in this really creepy, like, serial killer voice. And yeah, that's Cody Rhodes now. That's who he is to me.
He's I gave you a gift and I own you.
Yes, that's Cody Rhodes' mentality, and that just explains so much.
Well, now I'm curious.
like,
What else does it explain in your mind?
It's like the No Time to Die. Like guy takes care of, or guy saves the woman's life and now essentially thinks that he owns her because of it.
I think it's a little bit different when you save somebody's life.
Oh no, but
Okay.
it's creepier that guy's a real person. Cody's a real person.
Yeah, that too.
Which, if you want to hear our thoughts about No Time to Die and how over time I've gotten a little bit even more so of, nah, fuck that ending. Check out the A Review to a Kill series over on fanboysanonymous.com. Yeah, that's kind of creepy. I tried watching Rose to the Top because I figured maybe it's a little bit different, but it's the same as all the other reality shows, and they're just all shit. Like they're not for me. I hate scripted reality of this, like, and some are worse than other ones, of course. Some of them are like, that's the problem though, is the ones that are true reality shows, nobody ends up watching, and then they end up getting canceled because it ends up being like, well, it's boring because there's no drama to it. So then they end up doing the shows where it's like, oh, I dropped the cake right before the birthday party. Ah.
You always go with that one.
Because the cake thing, it's a perfect example for it, because it happened with the Miz thing. It's just like, uh-oh, the cake fell back in the back seat because we didn't, I don't know, buckle it in, and what are we going to do? Maurice is going to be mad. Womp womp. Like, I hate that shit with a passion. So when it gets to, like, Rose to the Top in the first episode or two or whatever, when they showed Teal for the first time, and it's like, I don't like Brandy and I'm a badass. I'm like, all right, that's your character. I don't fucking care now, because now you're just, I'm on the show as the antagonist. I'm going to be the one that doesn't want Brandy and the family. So that way, you know, I've got a purpose to the show instead of just being, that's Cody's
I don't
sister.
know, man. Based on the way that was laid out, it sounds like Cody is the antagonist.
I mean, that's
Yeah,
maybe the
totally
big
is.
twist of the whole thing is, you know, he's Grant Ward from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. kind of deal.
Well, what's funny about that is even on the reality show, he still doesn't get that he's the heel.
Yeah, I mean, it's happening in AEW, right? It's like, why are people booing me? I'm just pretending that I'm retiring and trying to garner sympathy and whatever. And if you boo me too much, Armed Anderson is going to shoot you. I love the whole Armed Anderson thing. I think it's fucking great. Shout out to the whole idea of the, I think it was you, Payton, that had brought it up, the he must be the one that gave Big Show his gun.
Oh no, I said Paul White gave him his gun.
Oh, Paul White gave him the gun.
Paul
Yeah,
White,
that's what I
you
was.
can't say Big Show anymore. It's Paul White's gun was transferred to Arn Anderson.
Oh, Frankie brings up, can't wait for another season of Stranger Things. Stranger Things is great. Yeah. Can't wait
Great
to see
show.
Season 4, hopefully end that in a good way. Let's go to another question here from Peter. Do you think that when the Fiend Alexa Bliss comes back, that she will say that Lily holds all the Fiend powers? I'm hoping that they just repackage her. I don't want this Fiend thing anymore.
If there was ever something I wanted WWE to just wake up and be like, yeah, it's over, it's gone. It's that. Like, I don't like that Alexa stole all of Bray Wyatt's abilities, and then they just fired Bray Wyatt, and there's no real payoff for all of this. So I'd rather them just stop.
Yeah, I think they'll just can it completely, and she'll just come back as the old Alexa Bliss. And they'll probably do the sort of thing they did with you know, when Matt Hardy first joined after coming back from at WrestleMania 33 or whatever it was, and then decided that, oh, he's repressing that character now, and so it's one of those things they can lean on, like, oh, she's going to come back as just what Alexa Bliss used to be. But if they want to, they can just flip the switch whenever they want, and she can be Fiend Bliss again.
Kind of like Undertaker switching over to the American Badass, but then, hey, you know, I'm still going to take some souls kind of deal.
They ended up doing that with Wyatt at the very end.
It'll be like Balor with the demon thing. Be a case of like, okay, we're just going to stop doing that for a while, but now we're just going to bring it back and completely ruin it.
Yeah, that's like a big, well, maybe not ruining it, but that's a real big thing in Japan where people have like alter egos and they'll break them out for certain situations.
Like Kishin Liger and stuff like that.
Exactly. Yeah. That's exactly who I was thinking of. Yeah. And, you know, Prince Devitt did a lot of that over. That's where he formed that demon character. And it's much more acceptable over there. I'm actually shocked that's not a thing they break out more here in America. Jericho does it, but he does it really badly. So it kind of gives it a bad rap.
The Painmaker type thing.
Yeah.
So Bliss,
the leather daddy clown. Yeah.
Bliss is going to come back and she's going to have face paint that's like that, and she's going to have the spikes and be wearing that hat.
Oh, so he's coming back as the Ultimate Warrior. Cool.
Well, yeah, she'll come back for like a year and a half or so, and she'll just be the same Alexa Bliss. But then someone will like slap her in the face, and she'll just like tilt her head to the side, and then she'll be Fiend Bliss again.
They never really classified like a name for it. Like they don't call her like Fiend Bliss or, you know, Twisted Bliss, I guess maybe as anything.
Yeah, I would call her Twisted Bliss just because Barry established that being the name of her move. But yeah, I just think they got it in their heads that they wanted this character and they didn't want Wyatt anymore, and they didn't do anything with Bliss.
I'm fully sold on the idea that I think that was a Pritchard call. I think that because we know that he likes that kind of stuff. You know, he did a lot of the Undertaker stuff back in the day and all that. I think that he was just sort of like, I want to play around with this character more, but Bray Wyatt's not just following the creative direction the way that we want him to. So let's just put it on somebody else. I think that's kind of what they were planning. And then you get Lily the Puppet and Shayna Baszler, and yeah.
They got new Bray Wyatt down in NXT.
For who would that be?
What's his name? Joe Gacy?
Dude, that whole safe space thing is just the worst thing I'm not into that at all.
It's an odd character to be doing. To be like, okay, my snowflakes, we're all gonna try to settle this without fighting, and then, you know, whatever.
What the fuck am I listening to?
You haven't been seeing that?
No, it just sounds like I'm listening to the Right Ring Radio all of a sudden.
It is. It's just kind of hammy, which is just what you would expect from NXT. I mean, you have what's his face over in AEW doing like a much more adult version of like the angry conservative boomer type character.
Dan Lambert.
Yeah, he's fun, and
he's fucking fun as hell on the mic.
But yeah, he's like the new cult figure type guy. So like they don't need another character like that up on the main roster. They got him coming up.
Yeah, but like he'll build up a stable of snowflakes. Like Holland's just the first disciple.
That way, it's like the Fireflies and the Snowflakes kind of deal.
Yeah.
And every snowflake is unique. So Harlan, you know, he's the big tough guy. Then the other ones are gonna be. Here's like I don't know who else can fit in that. Like maybe he converts Malik Blade because Malik Blade's not doing anything, or maybe like Katrina Cortez or something. I don't know.
Instead of the Firefly Funhouse, is it just the Snow Globe?
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Say, look, we're doing your fucking jobs for you, everybody. Frankie breaks up Braun Breaker being that he was not impressed last night with his stuff.
Braun Breaker is the best thing about NXT 2.0. I love Braun Breaker.
I'm still just salty about the fact that they don't call him Rex Steiner.
I refuse not to call him BD.
Do you think they will call him Steiner at some point?
They do that's the weird thing about it is they do everything they can to remind you that he's a Steiner without saying it. Literally mention it all the time. They're like, yeah, the Chucky thing was like, oh, I hope that being a loser doesn't run in the family. And all this other kind of stuff. And it's like, they keep going, oh, like his family lineage and whatever. And it's like, so call him Rex Steiner then. It was such a perfect name. Braun Breaker with 2 Ks? Like, what?
Braun Breaker's that's an okay name. I don't think it's terrible, but if you have a name like that, like Rex, and if you're like even Steiner on his own, if he wasn't even like if the Steiners wasn't an established name in wrestling, and if his name was just Rex Steiner, I think that's a fine name already. Like that's way better than Braun Breaker.
Well, his real name's Bronson Rex Steiner. So it's like
no, you could name him Braun Bremen.
Rex Steiner. It's so perfect. And they just didn't want to do it, so I don't know, this Braun Breaker thing. But I like Braun Breaker, like himself. I think that he's fun. I do agree though with Frankie that he's nowhere near as fun as Tony D'Angelo. So if you guys haven't watched NXT, both of you haven't been watching NXT much, right? Peyton and Drew?
I'll watch it occasionally, but yeah, I dabble like I'm Chris Jericho.
Have you seen Tony D'Angelo?
That's the hey gabagool.
Yeah,
guy, right?
Yeah. He's just
look. I don't stand for Italian phobia. Okay, I do not stand for it one bit.
Italian phobia.
Yeah.
You don't like Italian phobia?
I love Italian phobia.
Hey, you get some phobia.
I'm glad no one's here.
Yeah,
is
what's the matter
Italian-phobic,
you?
Okay, gosh darn.
You're like, hey, you don't like Italian phobia? What's some other kind of phobia? What the fuck? You know? I absolutely loved the thing that he did last week. I mentioned this before, but I'll mention it again too. I just loved that. So they had him, if you missed the couple episodes recently, he wanted to be on the talk show Lashing Out with Lash Legend. He suggested, like, hey, if you want me to show up on your show, like, I'll get you a ratings pop. Like, hey, yo. And then they decided they didn't want to do that. So they wrote it off as, well, the producer said that they didn't want him on there. And that he abducted the producer and had him in his trunk of his car. And they follow up the next week with, after he wins a match against Ru Feng, I think is what the guy's name was. This Samantha Irvin interviews him and she's like, hey, so like what happened with that producer that you like very clearly abducted? And he's like, hey, here's some money, go get yourself something nice and forget about it. And it's just kind of like, I'm like, I fucking love it. It's so dumb and it's so stereotypical that like, yeah, go back into like, you know, Duke the Dumpster Drosy territory where he's like, I love being a trash man and wrestling. Like, you know, they literally have promos where he's just like, look, I'm collecting garbage and I'm having so much fun and I'm going to have fun in the ring.
Sounds like the only way this could sound more Italian is if he comes out eating pasta and breadsticks for crying out loud.
Fucking do it.
Hold his hand up while he's doing it too.
Like New Day style, just have him come out throwing out meatballs and stuff.
Yeah, oh my
like,
god. Just wet ass spaghetti and meatballs at the fucking crowd. Let's do it.
Make it all
wet ass pasta.
All of his moves, just give them all gimmicky names, you know.
The breadstick kick, you have some of Ricky Marinera's.
Breadstick kick, I forgot about that one. Yeah, like I don't know, like some kind of like noodle shape thing to kind of like go around with it, the linguini clothesline or whatever the fuck, I don't know, like
I have a submission.
Linguini lariat, alliteration time.
There you go, linguini lariat, you know.
I have a submission called the Gabagoo Lock.
Yeah. Get to where the point where it goes past parody and comes back around. You know, when it's like a joke, a joke's funny, and then you keep going with it, and it's not funny anymore. And then you keep going, and it's funny again. Go full blown.
You wait until the joke becomes not funny, and then you bring Santino Marella as his manager.
Oh my god! Or FBI back.
Oh, you get Nunzio in. Nunzio's like he's like appointed referee.
Yeah, like make the Tony D'Angelo character something where you're just kind of like write up a list of tropes and stereotypes and whatever, and just go with it. The Gabagool stuff, like he's got to do it. You know, he's got to be propositioning a referee to like, you know, I'm gonna make you an offer you can't refuse to like help me win this match, kind of deal. Directly parody stuff too. Like there's that scene in Godfather where Sonny grabs the guy's camera, throws it down, smashes it, and then he just throws a couple hundreds on the street. It's just kind of like, here, there's your fucking camera, asshole. Like have him do something like that. Have him, rip apart the interviewer's microphone and then toss some money and just like, yeah, and that's for the fucking microphone. Like, just, yeah, Tony D'Angelo is fun as all hell. Way better character than some of the other ones they've got going on. Like, it was awkward last night watching Halloween Havoc, and the host was Grayson Waller. They had no idea what to do with him.
I don't think they're going to do takeovers anymore. And I would even advise, maybe don't do another Halloween Havoc. Because stuff like that was when you were clearly trying to pay homage to the past, and they're in a mindset right now where they just don't want to do that. So I would avoid that kind of stuff altogether, because then you get awkward things like, why is Grayson Waller the host of Halloween Havoc? Doesn't make any sense.
Because all it did was it set up that LA Knight was mad because he had won the match, and then the other Uso beats up Grayson Waller. So that was the point. Sure, why not? Frankie says Mandy Rose has got to calm down on the tans because that was a big topic on Twitter. Was that like a big thing?
I don't fucking know.
There's been accusations of her blackfishing, essentially.
Oh,
She's been tanned for the entire time she's been in WWE. I don't understand why this is an issue all of a
It's
sudden.
because she's got dark hair now.
Well, who gives a fuck? I mean, I know that this is an issue with some people because the whole point of the internet is to be mad 24/7. But I don't know, man. I just find shit like that kind of ridiculous at this point. I mean, Tessa Blanchard looks worse than her probably, but I don't know. I've never heard anything about that.
I wasn't paying attention to Twitter outside of I tweeted a couple things here and there. That was the only thing I really tweeted was I was like, oh my god, somebody's going to get injured in this match, because every bump in that match seemed like somebody was going to get injured, and then Io caps it all off with just headbutting a ladder off of the top rope essentially. She seems okay. No reports about anything.
Yeah, no reports about anything.
The JC Jane thing last week and then this week, it was just move after move. The power bomb that Gigi Dolan took looked like that was pretty rough.
But they're hiring and pushing women that can't work.
Back to the Divas era.
They're still expecting them to work because, now we've set a precedent that you have to be able to do Money in the Bank. So you have to be able to do
suicide dives.
Yeah.
So then Charlotte Flair is like, see, if I just won everything.
I got an idea.
Give me the belt. I'm glad that people like that thumbnail from the other day. That Bob Holly thing's one of my favorites.
It's sort of the funniest thing that happened that day. I was just like, oh, that's too good. I'm glad you used it.
Let's get another question here. Peter's wondering about how come WWE doesn't do any kind of autism awareness kind of things.
Because that's usually just wrapped up in their Make-A-Wish stuff. So they haven't admittedly specifically said, this month we're doing autism awareness. I think it's because that gets grouped in with all the other stuff they do.
I can say the truthful answer if you want me to. They don't want to
say it nicely. There's just too many causes out there that they can't do them all. And they're just going to go for where they feel like they're going to get the most money out of it. And that's why they went for breast cancer and fucking all the other things they go for.
They prioritize things like breast cancer and stuff like that because they're the big hitters, essentially. They're the ones that get the biggest PR value for them. So as Rob says, they tie everything else into. They do a lot of work with Make-A-Wish and they do all these other good stuff as well. I mean,
but John Make-A-Wish isn't necessary for people with autism. That's specifically
not just
more
anybody.
People dying,
I don't think people die of autism generally.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, Callum, but I get Peter's point as well in that, they don't do a very good job of representing what is honestly a larger percent of their audience than WWE would be most willing to present as an actual part of their audience. And I think that's why you don't honestly see them show those people off more. And that's just the real truth about it.
You do see them always tout doing work with the Special Olympics, and for them that's encapsulating all of it, including some of the other things that aren't directly on the autism spectrum.
Yeah, that's very true as well. So I shouldn't say it broadly. Like they do work in those, but they're obviously not obviously. They're just not going to go out of their way to show that stuff off when they know that like bringing out the woman for breast cancer and painting the ropes pink,
and having
then
that.
then on top of that, they know that they're going to probably get some of that money back because Susan G. Komen is one of the most fucked organizations ever, and the fact that WWE doesn't get more shit for working with them as like the breast cancer awareness people is a fucking joke, honestly. That's just a side point. Okay.
I mean, obviously we know that a lot of this is just PR. Like it's not their mission to make that their central priority, but they do go with whatever the PR thing is for any particular month. If it's like Black History Month, they tend to run like those types of things. If it's every particular day, if it's Memorial Day, they've got that intro that does that. I'm sure that they want to do as much as they can, just because I'm sure that these people aren't just like terrible people and they're like, hey, if we could help out in some of these things, that'd be good. But yeah, they can't.
June is a terrible month for wrestling usually, so you don't really think about like the LGBTQ month and like that corresponding with wrestling. But I bet in the coming years that might be a bigger part of wrestling if more wrestlers come out from that spectrum.
Well, I think that they do, because they use socials for a lot of this as well. And I think they do stuff for the LGBTQ community as well. But I think in the coming years, it will be a greater deal because you do have wrestlers now that are coming out more frequently, and you've got wrestlers like Sunny Kiss in AEW and Effie on the Indies, and they're doing just straight up all queer shows, doing the big gay brunch and stuff like that. So I think WWE will eventually get that 5 years from now.
And so maybe there is an autism thing that's in the works or something that they've tried to do or whatever. It might just be kind of lower on the priority scale than some of the other things and they haven't gotten around to it, that kind of deal.
Look, it hasn't been 20 years since Eugene yet, and I don't think WWE is fully gonna like admit that shit.
I really tried not to bring up Eugene.
That's part of their history, though. Like,
it's a big part of their history, And while at times the Eugene character did more bad than good, probably in the history of wrestling, Eugene probably is not a good character.
Frankie has a question. He says, completely unrelated to the question, but to Callum, how's the Adele hype going on around here?
Is that a big thing over there, bud? Whenever
Adele,
Ed Sheeran or Adele release a record?
I mean, it's whenever Adele releases a new album, it's like big blockbuster news. It's like because she's very good at like something that a lot of wrestlers could probably learn from is the fact that she spaces things out, and so it feels like a big deal when it actually comes out. I don't follow a lot of that stuff, so I can't say it's like it's in my conscious constantly or anything like that. I don't really see a lot of news surrounding it from what I like review and stuff like that. I know it's a big deal for a lot of people, but
It's
it
very
doesn't faze me.
From the United States standpoint, it's very interesting whenever you see a British star become very popular and like their record sales like become on par or is bigger in the UK than they are in the United States. If they do have big record sales in the United States, because their last record sold like a tremendous amount in the UK compared to the United States. And like I brought up Ed Sheeran's name. He is someone similar who has huge numbers in the UK compared to the United States. And that's largely because he's from there, for example. But so U2 was like that whenever they were huge and they toured constantly.
There's very few people that like are from the UK that would make it bigger in the US than they are in the UK. Probably actually the export that speaks to that is probably James Corden.
Yeah, thank you, bud. We appreciate that one.
I don't no, the pleasure's all ours. Believe me.
Spice Girls.
They're still bigger in the UK.
So it's all good. Canada gave us Norm Macdonald, so it's all good.
R.I.P. Norm.
If you want more Adele talk, though, there is Skyfall and the Review to Kill series.
Like I said, Adele's freaking great. It seems she has become the only one that made it big time in both. Yeah.
I think the Beatles will probably say something against her.
That's a good point.
Hey,
Nah, what have they ever done? Who'd they ever beat? What's
we
their
ever hear of a
finish?
woman called Madonna? Does she ever do anything?
to be fair, Adele's like record sales from her last one are the biggest of all time from
Yeah.
like a weekly standpoint. Selling 3 million in the United States. The second biggest, I believe, is the Backstreet Boys selling like 1.8 and they or maybe 2 million. So that's a really big, and especially in 2016 when in the beginning of the age of streaming where you still had album sales, but it's not as huge as they were even like 5 years ago. Like I remember when Eminem released Recovery, and I think that sold barely over 600,000 records the first week, which is still pretty good, but like that wasn't good for Eminem. Like fuck the Eminem show and like the Marshall Mathers LP, each of those sold close to 2 million their first week. So I don't know. It was a big deal, but I don't know. I honestly don't know how big of a fucking star she'll be in the history of music. But right now, she is probably the biggest contemporary star that isn't like Taylor Swift.
Yeah, I kind of like the way that Frankie's kind of phrased it. The idea that Adele's the only one that's made it big in both like the UK and the US. It's like, yeah, we have no idea even who Beyonce is.
It's probably. I mean, Beyonce has some good music, but I don't know. It's probably not a terrible thing that you don't have to deal with like the
She
shitty
also-
bike fans.
She's also like hasn't really been relevant in a few years now anyway.
Since
no,
I'd
Lemonade,
say it's kind of on the
honestly.
way out.
Oh no, I understand that. It's just more of a case of like mostly like stars from the US get big over here. I'm just saying like Adele may be more on the UK side of things as being like someone who got over super prominently in the US.
Dude, so I just realized this in like the last like few years. We're entering that age now where these like stars in like the mid 2000s and like early 2010s, where like a Nicki Minaj is someone who I don't think is someone will be relevant and like the like mainstream contemporary for like a long time, but she has like a fandom around her that is like able to like push her into relevancy whenever she drops something. And you see that kind of with BTS on like the charts where like literally everything they drop right now because all of their fans are like buying their stuff, streaming their stuff just so they can like have this success. You see that type of stuff with them. So I don't know. You like when it comes to, like in the long run and like 50 years from now, it's going to be curious how big the Adele fandom is if she still releases music, but she is not like a popular like mainstream artist then.
I can't even remember the last music based thing
What was the
that
last
I
album you listened
bought.
to?
Like the last CD that I bought. I don't think I've ever once bought an MP3.
Right, but what's like the last like album you've like streamed all the way through beginning to end? Have you done that?
If you count soundtracks.
I'm not counting soundtracks.
Other than that, then no, because I've never been into musicians.
But you told me you're the type of person that just like likes songs, though, right?
Yeah, like I'll like an individual song. I'll come across something. I'll end up trying to check out the rest of their music, and normally I'll end up hating everything else that they did. It'll be like, all right, that one song is the thing that I like from them, and that's about it. So, and I never get into the actual musicians themselves. I couldn't tell you who sings half of the songs that I have in my collection because I'm like, yeah, it doesn't matter. You know, it's just not my thing. I'm not a concert guy. We got tickets next year to go see Elton John because Caroline wants to go. And I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll go with you. Like, you know, obviously I'll go with you. Like, but even though I've got some Elton John stuff, I'm not like, oh man, I got to see Elton John in concert. I'm like, nah, I listen to some of his songs. I like some of his songs.
I don't know. Doug Benning just to be pretty cool live.
Yeah, it's something that I can never get into. Like, I don't know, there's something in my brain that I can't, and I wish I could, but like so many people will be like, oh, if you listen to this album, it's so good, and like this one track goes into the next one and tells this whole story, and I'm like, yeah, but track 4 is not catchy. Like that's kind of my disconnect with it. Like,
at least you're not like Stan, and at least everything isn't shit to you, you know?
Yeah, it's just it's a me thing. I totally get it. It's a flaw on my side that I wish that I could connect better with those things. So when I hear a song on like a car commercial, I'm like, that's catchy. I wanna download that one. But I never get into I wouldn't have been able to tell you the last song that Adele released, and I didn't know that she was releasing new music. Didn't even know.
She just released a song a couple of weeks ago. But I I don't even think I've listened to it yet, but I've done a terrible job
No.
of keeping up with like songs that they use as they've released in like the last couple years. I've kind of been a little too busy to keep up with that type of shit, you know? It'll just like pop up in my playlist and I'll listen to it. So I'm starting to become you, Tony. I just don't realize it until we're having the conversation.
To answer Frankie's question, what's better, No Time to Die by Billie Eilish or Skyfall by Adele? Skyfall.
Skyfall, yeah. No Time to Die
Yeah.
is pretty good, though.
Yeah, Skyfall's still that one though.
But we break all that down. You can check out our whole rankings
Yeah.
in the Review to a Kill series.
Some other questions here from Peter. We got a couple more that we can round out this episode with. Who do you think Roman's going to fight at WrestleMania?
Go ahead, Tony.
I think it's going to be Brock.
Can you fight like a? Can they clone him? Maybe that's the only way they'll get like a
Cloman
high
Reigns.
value match out of it.
So when are they going to
Cloman
do
Reigns.
him versus The Rock?
I think in Hollywood next
Following
year.
year. Yeah, they're going to be in Los Angeles the following year. That's the plan. If it lines up, I mean, it's all depends on what the Rock schedule is. But if it's ever going to happen, that's where it's going to happen.
I really don't think it really matters. I think Reigns retains whoever he faces. They might just build someone up and just say, okay, this is a good enough match for WrestleMania. Go out there and do it.
There's
I
really
hope-
only two options. I mean, it's Brock or it's Drew.
Yeah.
There's no one else on
Yeah.
SmackDown.
And
that even
as
said.
you were saying that, I thought, oh God, I hope they don't think, let's do a triple threat because Drew beat Brock. Then he never got to beat him in front of people, so that's a hook.
You got a
And
lot
then
to
Roman-
work towards there, Drew. Because you're not even in the company right now.
They are correct. I am not in the company right now.
Yeah, those two are the only names that have any real like prominence right now that could potentially challenge him. And based on their track record, they're not necessarily going to build anyone else up for that role.
I could
Yeah, they
see
come up-
them doing a scenario where they do the Brock match beforehand, either do it at day one or at Royal Rumble. I'm thinking day one more so. And then
Well-
they kind of twiddle their thumbs a little bit with, I guess it all depends. We know the schedule now for some of the pay-per-views for the next year, and they've got some noticeably absent time frames. Like they had Elimination Chamber just a few days ago as like, hey, it's Royal Rumble, it's Elimination Chamber, it's WrestleMania, that kind of deal. And they didn't announce Elimination Chamber. So I don't know if that means that we're getting Elimination Chamber merged with Super Showdown in February or March, and they haven't settled on it yet because they don't want to announce it. Or if they're just kind of waiting and they, we're going to also add this in there. Or if they're going to do something like Elimination Chamber on Raw or SmackDown, because they could do that. But right now, if you go by just their pay-per-view schedule, the next event after Survivor Series is day one on January 1st. And then it's Royal Rumble. And then it's WrestleMania. Right? So they're going to
Yeah.
put something in there.
Well,
And-
I
it's
think
going to be a Saudi show.
Most
Yeah, I
likely
think
it would
we
be the
should
Saudi
do that,
show.
Saudi.
And if they continue on with Super Showdown, that they would do that. They might have the Elimination Chamber at Super Showdown and just kind of, combine their efforts. If they do that, that's where I could see them doing something like, we did the Brock match at day one, the Royal Rumble sells itself, and then in the Saudi show, we have Elimination Chamber and Drew McIntyre wins that to go fight Roman. I can see that being the case. And then Drew loses to Roman at WrestleMania, because obviously he's going to lose.
I'm
What
I'm
about
kind
Goldberg?
They were meant to do that a couple of years ago, so it's not out of the realm of possibility. I think that's more the Royal Rumble match.
What, Drew?
Fair enough.
Oh no, Goldberg and
Goldberg.
Oh, Goldberg thing. Yeah.
well, Goldberg's either going to face probably either Roman or Big E at Royal Rumble for the title, whichever one. I'm kind of the mindset right now that Lesnar comes back at the Royal Rumble, wins the Royal Rumble, and that's how he gets the match at WrestleMania with Roman.
That could happen too. And
'Cause
Goldberg,
they've suspended it. They've done the suspension trick with him now, so Royal Rumble seems like, oh god, it's a shocking return. Brock Lesnar's here and he wins.
And then
This
that
is really the
excuses
dark
that he doesn't
fucking
have to do
timeline,
anything
isn't
for
it?
a while because after he wins the Royal Rumble, he doesn't have to do anything until WrestleMania.
But then I think if he goes in there with Roman at Mania, he's just gonna beat Roman. I mean, Roman's just gonna be Lesnar. So it's like, why have him lose again?
Because I guess they just think that they can't do anything else.
Well, they'll probably if they do Lesnar again against Lesnar against Roman at Mania, they'll have Lesnar win and Roman will win it back at SummerSlam or something.
It's the cycle just keeps repeating itself.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not doing it just to be completely pessimistic. It's just like that's just how they book right now. Realistically, you don't need Roman and Rock to be for the title for it to main event WrestleMania.
Yeah, WWE fucking sucks. Holy shit. Jeez. That sounds so terrible, man. This is the dark timeline. Gosh darn. Why did Undertaker have to lose at fucking 31?
Peter brings
30.
up Walter's
Or
name.
30, my bad.
I don't think Walter's anywhere in the discussion.
Get outta
I'd like
here.
to see it, but he's not probably popping up for a while.
It'd be a
Walter
fun
never
match
gets...
like any War match I have. Every
Walter-
War match I see.
He will never make it to the main roster, will he?
He doesn't want to.
I
He doesn't
don't
want.
think
He doesn't
he-
want to.
That's what I
full time.
thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, I never thought he did. I thought he was just wanted
And
to
also-
stay with UK.
And also, the one time that he was on the quote unquote main roster or on the main show, they had him job out in 2 minutes in that Survivor Series match.
Yeah, true.
That is true.
So they wouldn't have a clue about pushing him as a top guy. They'd have him as a heavy for he'll be AJ Styles' new heavy when almost turns babyface on him or something.
No, I figured they'd do something like Vladimir Kozlov with him. They'd try to push him for like a few months, give him like one like championship match, and then he'd be useless and be nothing after that.
You know, Vladimir Kozlov used to come out in the white tights, and I'm still disappointed he never shit his pants.
Well, that was
well.
reserved for Alberto Del Rio. Really should have happened.
I mean, they both could have done it. It would've been fun.
That's the matches. Whoever shits himself loses, and they just start trying to do that. What moves can you do to
Del
make the
Rio
other guy
say
shit
recently
himself?
That he was gonna like be back to WWE sooner
He
rather
says
than
that all
later.
the fucking time. He's always
Okay.
like, "Yeah, they want me back, and I'm going to win the championship," and then it ends up being like, "No."
Oh, okay, my bad. Okay, I know the answer to the question. Del Rio is gonna challenge Reigns at WrestleMania. Then
There you
that's
go.
what it's gonna be.
He's going to do
You
that.
know
He's
it.
going to win, and then he's going to shit himself, and that's going to be the way that
Ted,
Mania
you know-
ends. Is him just dropping a deuce.
Reigns does the spear and he shits himself for the pinfall.
Uses the Universal title to decorate himself.
Hey, that's how you fucking put Reigns over. He makes someone shit themselves while he's like pinning them. That's how fucking powerful his spears is. That's how you put a fucker over.
I don't think you get any more over than, all right, I'm going to beat the shit out of Hall of Famer Edge and Bryan Danielson and just stack them and pin them because nobody's better than me.
Michael Patrick
Nah,
says,
Bryan Danielson
I could
is
see
a
Damian
midget or
Priest winning the
whatever.
Royal Rumble. Damian Priest, maybe he wins. I don't think he's going to fight Roman though. But maybe Priest wins and challenges Big E if
Well,
he's
do you
still
think-
champion or something.
I was about to say, do you think Big E makes it to Mania though?
I don't,
Hmm.
but
He probably will, just because again they just don't have anyone ready to take it off of him.
And also,
I
they
don't know
don't
if
have
he
a
makes that
surprise
this year.
person. They don't have a Money in the Bank now, thankfully, to worry about that. But at the same
Yeah, so they
time,
can just give Randy Orton a title shot in any random Monday night. Like, that's how they work.
that's true. That's true. Orton
And
could
then- and
easily
then they
pick up
don't-
another title reign at any given point, or they could give it to Edge, honestly, at any given point, since he could easily win that title at any time since he's back.
I just saw like what they did on Monday. I mean, Seth Rollins, all 4 of those people in that number 1 contenders match on Raw were people that have barely won a match in the last 2 months.
Hmm.
And then one of them wins, and they're suddenly challenging for the WWE Championship. It could legitimately be anybody.
Yep, WWE Sparking is incredible. That's what all I hear.
Peter suggests Orton beats Big E, Riddle wins Royal Rumble, Riddle and Orton at Mania. If they wanted to.
I think it's
Pass.
I think it's going to be a quite interesting race now to see who actually gets to 16 world titles first, or Orton or Flair.
Well, do you think Cena ever wins another world title?
Yes.
I
yeah,
don't
he
rule
should,
it out, yeah.
I hope he does.
Well,
I mean-
this has been a thing now for 6 or 7 years. It's if he does come back for another run, what type of run is it going to be? Is it because he doesn't make it in Hollywood? Like he doesn't get any more roles because of a bad like movie or something like that? Or what if he does make it to The
it'll just
Rock's
be like The Rock's-
popularity in the next few years?
It'll be just like The Rock's last quote unquote run, where he wins a title at the Royal Rumble and then holds it through to WrestleMania and then drops it at WrestleMania.
Yeah, but that
And
took
he could do it as
7
Hollywood Cena.
Yeah.
Hey, there's a guy
That's
that
true.
he's an actor that might be good in that pro wrestling scene.
John Cena
Listen.
fella. Yeah, he could be.
I'm
you know?
surprised.
I don't
he's
know. I don't think I
good-
can see it.
I'm surprised he's been so good at acting.
I'm interested as all hell in seeing Peacemaker. That TV show seems like that'll be a lot of fun. As far as TV shows go, they're on the bubble. We got 3 more questions here that we could do at the end of this. So we did the who does that. With the new rosters, do you see anybody forming any new tag teams? Looking at the
I
roster,
mean, they kind of have to on the women's side, don't they?
they really do have to with certain people. I do think Carmella and Zelina might shack back up again, just kind of by
They're on
default.
separate shows.
Carmella and Zelina are?
So
Oh,
They're on
Raw now.
They're on Raw.
Oh, are they?
Yeah.
All right. Never mind what I
'Cause
said.
they moved that entire feud with her. Liv
Yeah.
Morgan.
That's right. They moved her and Liv Morgan. Yeah.
I could see like this bizarre situation where like Carmella and Liv Morgan start teaming up.
No,
Just like-
yeah,
it's like,
some weird.
Okay, we've been feuding for long enough. Now let's just team up, or do like the Sheamus and Cesaro thing. Like, oh, you're just in a never-ending feud, so let's have you fight one more time, and then you become a tag team.
I definitely think they're gonna put Sheamus and Cesaro back together.
I think Rhea Ripley's going to break off from Nikki at one point. Not necessarily like, and then they feud, but I think that they'll drop those titles. And I could see Nikki ASH, I hate that name, teaming up with Tegan Knox.
you know that they will not be able to resist putting Nia Jax and Doudrop together.
That's
Well, what would
a
the
big
name
one.
be?
I don't even know.
See,
Addicted
what-
to
what-
Nia Jax
what you guys are
and
hearing,
Doudrop.
yeah, what you guys were hearing right there is a bunch of 5 guys trying not to make an insulting joke about two plus size women.
I was sitting there, I'm like, dude, Drax stuff. How do they
I'm
merge
not coming
those
with an actual
names?
fucking
Like,
name. That's the problem.
because they don't
But,
do
like-
names with most of them, you know? Like, don't,
No.
even when they give
Yeah.
them names, they don't actually say their names. Like, technically speaking, Dana Brooke and Mandy Rose were called the Sexy Muscle Friends, and Asuka's the only one who said it on the air.
I bet their tag team name, if they ever won a title, it would be Nia Jax and Doudrop.
Yeah,
I bet
Yeah,
that's
that's
their tag team.
what it is. It's just
I
Or
mean,
the big gals.
the,
Like
like, the most tenuous thing that I could think of is like the fact that Doudrop does jazz hands coming down to the ring, so maybe they're just called Jack's hands instead.
Oh God.
That's something. I'll give you that.
I don't. How about we just don't do it? How about like it doesn't happen?
Well, I'm hoping that Nia Jax doesn't come back, but we know that's going to happen anyway. So like,
So here you mentioned Nia Jax, and I do want to say this because over the course of the next several weeks, people will be hearing our fantasy booking and everything we did with that. Every women's champion gets drafted, except Nia Jax. I think that says all you need to know about the way that this podcast feels about
to be
Nia.
fair, I don't remember anyone picking Rockin' Robin, but that's
I meant modern. Okay. Every modern Raw, SmackDown, NXT, UK Women's Champion.
yeah, no Jillian Halls and such. I could see them teaming up a couple different people here and there just out of necessity because they need more tag teams. But like, you know, maybe they start putting in together like a Jackson Riker with somebody just in like one of those. Hey, just start teaming up on main event, and it's like Jackson Riker plus
T-Bar.
right, yeah, like one of those kind of teams where it's just kind of like those two guys just are together. And
Well, they did the vignette for Veer, right? And then I find out that Veer got beaten by Riker on main event.
yeah. So
What's
it's
the
like
point of all that?
I have no fucking idea. But I wouldn't have been able to call, for instance, Baron Corbin becoming Happy Corbin and Riddick Moss becoming Madcap Moss, and that being a tag team where
There's a
Moss
good reason
tells
for that, Tony.
lame jokes, you know, like
There's a great reason for that. It's not a good idea.
I'm still waiting for Ridge Holland to join that act. Actually, I could see Ridge Holland teaming up with Sheamus because they kind of have similar.
Rich
got the
Holland's
same
going to be
hat.
with somebody. He's definitely
Yeah.
going to be with somebody. It's going to be Sheamus or it's going to be like Sami Zayn.
Dolph Ziggler.
Oh yeah, Dolph Ziggler would be. Well, I think
He's on the other show.
He's on SmackDown, isn't he?
Yeah.
Not that it really matters, but I could see. I mean, Eva Marie's got to come back at some point, right? And she has to be put with someone who can actually do something. So depends on.
You already
I mean,
know they're gonna put her with like either Naya or Doudrop at some point to play off that stereotype.
they've already done the Doudrop thing.
They did the
That was the-
Oh, my bad. My bad. Let me phrase that.
No,
They're
I mean,
gonna do
Nia
a Nia
makes sense,
Jax
yeah.
at some
Yeah.
point.
I mean,
Didn't they do
realistically,
that
they'll call up
NXT?
they'll call up Io
Maybe,
Shirai at some
probably.
point. Yeah, they'll call up Io Shirai at some point, and then they'll team her up with Asuka because
Yeah.
Asian women.
She's got to be the new Kairi Sane, bud.
What did they just
That's
call
how it's
up?
gotta be.
What's her name? Mia, whatever the hell her name is.
She is called
Yeah,
up technically. Yeah.
She's been on the roster.
Mia Yim?
forever.
Or are you talking about
Mia
Mei
Reckoning.
Yang?
No, the
Oh,
Mei Yang. That
Oh,
one.
Xia
Xia
Li,
Li.
right.
You're thinking of Xia Li.
Xia Li is the one you're
Xia
thinking
Li.
of. Yeah.
That's the one. Yes.
Yeah, they could team her up with Asuka as well. Actually, well, Asuka's not drafted, is she?
Yeah,
So she can
Asuka's
go
not
over.
on a brand right now. If she's on any brand, they're kind of just lingering on the idea of her probably staying on Raw, but she went undrafted. And I don't know, maybe,
I mean, there's
maybe-
How would she go undrafted? Is she out right now or something?
Yeah,
yeah,
she's
she's
injured.
injured.
She was injured.
Ah,
I mean, you could probably. I'm picturing Xia Li is going to take the like Tony Storm treatment, which essentially get called up and never get used.
Yeah, maybe.
she's gonna get used when their big deal with China comes through. Is when she.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But then she'll only be used on the shows where they actually are in China.
But
Yeah,
then they'll
she-
make
she's
her a
Chinese
women's
Mansoor.
champion for that.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
And I like Mansoor, but it's very obvious that, like, I mean, the guy does nothing all that much, and then Saudi show comes up and it's like, hey, he's got a match. Oh, look at that. It's, it's kind of like, all right, we know what's happening here. Frankie says maybe Charlotte can team with Izzy because it seems like they're the two most people, the two most blamed people right now. That Izzy thing, that Izzy and her crew are like trying to sabotage MSK in NXT. That's a story. Greg Hamilton got fired this week.
Yeah, whatever.
Whatever.
That's
I mean, what's his best call?
Best
in the world. Yeah, nobody's the Fink.
No, he's not even there. Like Shane's not even there anymore.
Yeah, but he's not like, even like what's his name? Big gut guy had like rated R super.
Tony Chimmel?
Chimmel, yeah.
Yeah, he didn't even.
But
have
also,
anything
like,
that.
Chimmel was just there forever.
Yeah.
You know?
Or
I
what's his
enjoy
face
Josh
with the fancy
Roberts.
haircut was like John
Yep, Josh
Cena.
Roberts.
See, you know
Yeah.
exactly who I'm talking about just by doing these calls. That
Well,
guy
his
had-
name's
Yeah,
Justin.
Justin Roberts.
Am I calling him Josh? I'm so fucking sorry. I'm so sorry. I remember going to a show at Indiana State in 2014, and he was there. It was right before he got fired, and I remember like 2 weeks later he got fired. It was has not been the same since.
What was Lillian's signature? Tripping on the stage every once in a while.
Not knowing how to fucking talk. That's what her problem was.
It's when she sang the national. It's when she sang the national anthem.
That one
I'm sorry,
time.
I was gonna
I
say,
think
singing America the Beautiful.
Oh
Yeah.
god.
It's either that or someone's gonna make a horse noise.
If you watch the 2006 like her like introduce like the Royal Rumble match, she's just like constantly fucking up the entire time. So that's why I say that.
Is that
By
what
the way.
doesn't she
Oh,
go
her
like it's
falling over-
the
it's her falling over on the way to the ring.
yeah? That's what I was
Yeah.
saying. Like
Yeah.
just stumbling around. Like when she's like the winner, the Royal Rumble will be the royal winner, or like whatever.
Yes. Yeah.
Two questions left. If you could put anyone in a couple from The Simpsons, who would it be? Like, I guess to pair off the characters. I have absolutely no idea.
Who's even on the Simpsons anymore?
I haven't watched the show in enough years that I have no idea what they're
Modern
at.
Simpsons is god awful, but so I'm thinking about this as like if it was still good Simpsons.
Give me Lisa's Sideshow Bob. That'd be interesting. Fuck with Bart.
Have you seen No Time to Die?
I did.
So we're making tag teams with like a Simpsons person and a wrestler.
I
Is that
thought
what we're
it's
trying
more
to
of a
do?
romantic
I
couple.
think it's more of a romantic couple.
That's what I was thinking it as.
Fuck it. Let's give Millhouse
Lisa
his,
can be grown
his
up,
due.
motherfucker.
Let's
She doesn't have to be a child.
Millhouse gets Lisa. There you go.
Okay,
Well, I think-
that's an
isn't
easy
that
one,
canon
but that's
by
like,
now?
It's like canon in future that doesn't actually work.
Isn't there multiple canon to that? It's like it's Lisa
Yeah.
and Millhouse, or it's Lisa and Nelson, or Lisa's a lesbian. That's basically the 3 different canons there are.
Or Lisa's with Hugh temporarily.
Hugh Morris?
Hugh. Did they ever say his last name? Hugh.
I don't think they did.
Because it's Hugh Grant, but yeah, whatever it is. Mo got engaged, and Comic Book Guy is married now.
I think.
Sounds
Oh
like a
yeah,
great
Mo's engaged to a dwarf female character.
Oh, sounds lovely.
And comic book guy just has a comic book girl. Yes.
man, I think it'd be cool if Ralph got I think Ralph, Lisa, I think that's it. That's the couple. I figured.
Comic
it out,
book
guys.
guy, like the only way they could do that, like actually be kind of funny, is if comic book guy had like an e-girl that he was just like subscribed on OnlyFans.
He's trying to get her
at, like, the
bathwater and
PhD
shit.
level. Like,
And then like they hold the wedding, and like it's an actual person that shows up to like marry him.
He's directly sponsoring the OnlyFans account of Princess Cashmere.
God no, that'd be awesome if like they did the wedding and like he pays for like her to show up and everything.
Oh man, I'm so glad I don't watch the show anymore. If this is this show's been going, fuck it, Hans Moleman with Helen Lovejoy. There you go. It's like kissing a peanut, apparently. Final question here. Now that King Xavier exists, do you think WWE will give us more things that superstars want? For instance, Sheamus has said before that like
Nope.
one of his main things is that he wants to win the
Nope.
Intercontinental Championship, and that to round out his career. Yes and no.
Was Xavier's big thing? He wanted to win the King of the Ring.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
He for years he talked about like, look, if I can just win King of the Ring, like I'd be happy. A lot of people talk about winning the world title at WrestleMania. He's like, I just kind of want to be King of the Ring.
I thought that was just a bit.
No,
No,
that was
legitimately
him
wants to be
legitimately
King of the
just being like, I really want to be King of the Ring. Please let me be King
Oh.
of the Ring. So building up this
When you
whole
say it
thing.
like that, it makes it sound like he's a little kid. Like, please,
Yeah.
let me make the King of the Ring in Saudi Arabia, please.
I'm sure Saudi Arabia wasn't part of
it. Saudi Arabia.
But like
That's
for
what-
them to
that's what
actually do
Triton-
that, and for them to not just go, "Ha, we fucking took it away from you" or whatever, like that's cool that they did it, but that's very rare. So I do think Sheamus wins the Intercontinental Championship, but I don't know. A lot of the other ones are things that people. Yeah, everybody wants to main event WrestleMania. Everybody wants to win the Royal Rumble. Everybody wants to win the white strapped old school Intercontinental Championship kind of deal.
Just fuck that. I want the yellow strap, dog.
Nah.
Give me the red strap.
And nobody's winning the purple one or anything. But like, for the most part, I don't think that they're going to give many other people their childhood dreams outside of the ones that just happen to make it to that point anyway. Like, I don't think we're going to get like, for Christmas, they send out a list and it's like, tell us what your dreams were, and we're going to try to book them for the next year kind of deal, you know, like that kind of scenario.
It's gonna definitely depend on the person and the scenario, because like I totally see Sheamus getting the IC title, you know, just because it's like, yeah, okay, that's the last thing you need. Sure.
I mean, yeah, if it was like that, if Roman Reigns was like begging Vince, like, look, please, I'll do anything to get The Rock to have a match with me or something like that, you know, that'd be another.
I don't
thing,
think.
suppose.
I think they would be begging.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it'd be the other way
Rock,
around. It would be
please.
yeah, it would be Vince begging The Rock in that instance to do another match.
I feel like it depends on a mixture of the person who's asking, based on like how tenured they are, or what they've done for the company in the past, all that other stuff, and how meaningless the thing they're asking for is.
Yeah, because the Money in the
Like
Bank
Woods-
is something
yeah,
that's
Woods-
like, they can do the Money in the Bank and give it to somebody, then have it, you know, you failed to cash in, but you won Money in the Bank. The Royal Rumble is a way bigger deal. They're not going to give that to somebody for nothing. King of the Ring doesn't mean all that much, so they give it to Woods. Yeah, he's got a crown, you know.
And let's be clear, we were all very concerned that they just wouldn't.
Right, yeah.
Like, it was
Well,
very surprising still.
I genuinely don't know why people were so concerned they weren't going to give the King of the Ring to Woods.
Well, I
'Cause-
felt better once he beat Jinder, but I originally thought
I still thought they were going to go with Close but no cigar.
Which is one of those things. Is like when the New Day wants something, the New Day gets something. It's like
they have worked their way to that, haven't they?
yeah, which is the other two have won the world title and stuff like that. So of course they're going to give Woods something at some point. It's just like with Sheamus
More
winning
of
the
a
Intercontinental title.
consolation prize, if anything.
Yeah, exactly. And Sheamus winning the Intercontinental title. Oh yeah, of course Sheamus is going to win the Intercontinental title because the Intercontinental title doesn't mean anything.
Right.
It's just a prop. So essentially, like, yeah, anyone can win it. Like Corbin's going to win it probably in a week or two. So like anybody can hold it at some point.
Yeah, that's why I think like the IC title for Sheamus, yeah, they'll check that box off. But if, somebody comes up and it's like Mustafa Ali is like, yeah, I really, really want to be the first ever Muslim WWE champion, they'll probably be like, sorry, pal, we're not going to get around to that. You know what I mean? Not to crap on him, but like,
But you never know.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, weird things have happened, so you could never count anything out. But the way the company does work, most of the time they end up going in the same sort of trends. So, now we're going to get like some brand new person, some like, who's like a young guy that probably just got signed or something. Like, trying to think about like an NXT type of guy that would have been like
LA
a brand
Knight.
new. No, younger kind of guy. Like somebody who's like, oh, I grew up with like this era type of a thing. The only thing I can think of is Austin Theory, but he's even too far past that point. Let's just say like a Braun Breaker.
Grayson Waller or Trey Baxter or something.
Trey Baxter. That's a good one. Where Trey Baxter could be like, man, it's been my dream for the past couple of years to beat Roman Reigns for the Universal title at WrestleMania. They'll be like, yeah, you could go fuck off. Like it's not happening. That kind of deal. It's a balancing act. If you're somebody like the New Day, you're almost definitively at this point the best team of all time. Yeah, they're gonna give you something. When is everybody gonna be okay with making that distinction as like obviously it's never a definitive thing, but like
They're still too recent. Time has to pass. They have to retire. They have to go away, kind of thing.
People are already talking about it. I don't even know what you're talking about. I already hear people mentioning it all the time that they're the greatest team of all time, greatest faction of all time, whatever you want to refer to them as.
they topped the
Talking about
list.
the New Day.
Yeah.
The way I assumed that Tony
Yeah.
meant that was like, when is it going to be just
Accepted,
like, there
kind
will
of.
be no detractors to it?
Yeah, 'cause-
it's never going to be the case.
That's
'cause you're
never
always
going to
have
happen.
yeah,
You can't
you're
even
always gonna
decide
have
who's the
people-
greatest wrestler of all time is.
Yeah,
You know-
I yeah.
If you want to get from a WWE standpoint, just from an accomplishment standpoint, I think it's hard to argue that the New Day isn't the greatest tag team of all time, just from a WWE like accomplishment standpoint. Even in, I guess, single stars, I think, and like as a faction, they've accomplished more than probably anyone else. So but Peyton is right. That's going to be something that's going to be argued until the day wrestling dies, because there's going to be people saying that tag team has been dead for years now. So how could they be the greatest tag team of all time?
Yeah,
Well, I
and
mean,
it's
that's
hard
the
to
thing
also-
is that like people will have the same discussions and nobody's ever going to make like, okay, everybody in the world decides on the same thing. But like, I still see pushback more so where people will go, all right, I'm going to name the top 10 tag teams of all time. And they go Road Warriors, Dudley Boys, Hardy Boys, whatever. And they just completely ignore the New Day. Then it's like, well, come on. I mean, even if they aren't retired yet, you got to talk about it at the end of the discussion, if not towards the top. Like, I think people are hesitant to do that because they are still so active. And
people
once
need to remember that they did beat the Dudley Boys like multiple times, like when during their second reign or run in the company. So I think, or like their
Yeah, but nobody
1 year
cares about that.
reunion
Jinder
run.
Mahal's beating Randy Orton. That doesn't make him like better than Randy Orton.
No, you're true, but I think from a longevity standpoint, the New Day has been like tag team champions for like a combined like over 2 to 3 year standpoint, while Jinder has been WWE champion for only like 4 or 5 months. So I get the comparison you make with that, but I think it's like comparing apples to oranges.
Why can't we compare?
I know,
Oh.
right?
We got a $50 super chat here from Michael Patrick. Congrats on the wedding, Tony. I wish you all nothing but the best. Thank you so much, Michael, for that. That is incredibly generous and very, very, very appreciative. Very appreciated.
Wait a minute. Yeah, that's the final topic here. Tony, are you going to come back from this honeymoon and just be like, you know what, guys, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm good.
I don't know.
Great way to end it. 10 years.
I don't know.
Well, step one, Tony has to come back from his honeymoon.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's the
Step
big
one-
You gotta make it back.
Step one, I have to go through the rest of this
Do the wedding
week.
first.
I gotta get through today. I joked a lot this year about like I could drop that at any moment. Like it could happen for all I know. That would be the
That's
final twist in this turn for the whole wedding planning and everything going the way that it has with that. But like that's my game plan. It's the wedding coming up this weekend, and then you guys are going to be hearing some podcasts over the next couple of weeks of some of the content that we recorded ahead of time of the ultimate roster of all time, mock draft, fantasy, WrestleMania card type stuff. There are 6 episodes that we had recorded, and that'll be released like 2 a week over the course of... Actually, no, it's not 2 a week. It's technically like kind of 3 a week or so. It's all spread out, and from the first week of November throughout up until around Survivor Series time. Meanwhile, I'll be in Brazil, and I will be hopefully having a lot of fun with the honeymoon stuff and taking a fucking break for the first time in over 10 years. I don't know how I'm going to do that because I don't know how to do that, but I'm going to try to figure that out. And
It'd be kind of hard to do all that in Brazil,
well, I'm certainly not bringing my microphone and doing full gear pay-per-view post-show type content or whatever. And all right, the hot tags for this week. I'm not going to be like, let's take some time away from the honeymoon to talk about the episode of Monday Night Raw that just happened or something. But I will still be active here and there. I'm sure I'll tweet some stuff out. I'm sure that I'll be around. I'll have my phone, so it's not like it's like I'm not going to have
How
that.
much is data to use overseas?
God knows about any of that. I'll try to connect to the Wi-Fi as much as I can, maybe. But I don't know. The game plan coming back is to still just kind of keep things going. But I might just kind of be like, I got a new outlook on things, and to hell with a lot of things. But I enjoy Smack Talk and Smark Out Moment more than anything else. So, the worst case scenario is I cut out all the other stuff and go, no, I don't want to do anything except for this kind of stuff because it's the fun stuff. And I don't know, maybe we get more fantasy booking stuff because I like that a lot too. But I don't know, I got a wrestling related thing coming up on this weekend. I know that there's wrestling has at least one factor into the wedding in one scenario. Maybe I'll put up some kind of video about that if I end up getting somebody to record it, but we'll see. Peter's asking when I do come back the day before Survivor Series. So I don't know how I'm going to pull off the Survivor Series thing. That might be a little bit weird too. I don't know if I'm going to have everything set up because of the move and everything that goes along with that. Game plan is to hopefully have the Survivor Series post show and live coverage. It just might be a little bit too difficult, but I'll keep people posted. I'm not going to be completely MIA. And I'll be on Facebook and whatnot too. So you might see me in the Megamaniacs group, facebook.com/group/the Megamaniacs. You might just see me popping up on Twitter, and you might hear from everybody else about some different things. I don't know. I won't keep everybody too much in the dark. That's the thing. It's happening.
Enjoy it. Honestly, enjoy it. You deserve an actual break. So I hope you really enjoy this.
Yeah, with Peter. Fuck Survivor Series.
Yeah, I might just be like, screw it.
This is the one time of year where Tony doesn't do any work, so that's like.
And it's also the one time of year where Raw and SmackDown does head down.
Yeah, exactly. So
No.
For the first time ever.
Yeah.
There you go.
You can afford to miss that one.
Can I? All the money I'm spending. That's the thing. Can I afford that? I don't know. If you want to make
You
sure I
can't
can
afford
afford that,
much,
there's a couple ways that you can help out.
Oh,
Like
wait,
Michael with
wait.
the super chat there. You can donate to the Patreon, patreon.com/smarkoutmoment. You can join the members only stuff on YouTube. You can, I don't know, you can head up the wedding fund. There's the, I shared that page at one point.
So important question: is the wedding gonna have open bar?
It does.
Oh boy.
Oh baby! Hey,
5-hour top shelf bar, I think is what it's classified as. I don't know.
Oh, not a middle shelf too. Oh wow, dog. Oh baby.
Peyton and Drew are a part of a group chat that I had the other day where I was like, "Hey, I'm supposed to pick beer. I don't drink. What do I pick?" Like, yeah.
It was funny.
I forget even what I ended up going with. I think it ended up being
You
like Bud Light and the hard seltzer option or something. I'm like, that's what most people are voting for.
That
Like,
sounds white trash. It sounds amazing, bud.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah. Everyone will like it except for us. I promise.
well, I won't fucking be part of it. I'll be too busy. I don't know, maybe eating some of the flatbread or something.
As long as I can go to the bar and get myself a White Russian.
Just one. A
Yeah.
White Russian.
And her name is Lana.
So yeah, that's 10-year anniversary stuff content coming up over the course of the next few weeks. Maybe some other podcasts on the side of Rob and Callum are able to record any kind of hot tag talk or something maybe.
We can't, you know us. We can't resist talking into a microphone for a couple of hours, like every week or something like that. So
Also, if I can edit it too,
Eh,
I'll have my
we do
laptop
things
with
we
me.
do-
It's fine.
we do things
Yeah,
edited. We never say anything offensive.
No, I mean as far as just like making the video. Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
But it might even just be audio only. That might be an easier way for me to do it. So, stay tuned to like the Spotify account stuff or, if it's Amazon Music, if it's Stitcher, if it's iTunes, Apple Podcasts, it's whatever orange podcast, compare the Apple and the oranges feed, see if it ends up working better one way or the other. And, I don't know. Yeah, that's Mailbag. That's the hot tags. Let's round things out with some plugs. Some more plugs, I guess. My stuff. I already plugged everything. Fanboys, Smark Out Moment, Patreon, blah, blah, blah. Rob.
Yeah, you can follow me everywhere at Dude Felice. Check out Fightful.com and Fightful Select for all your wrestling scoop needs. Callum.
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at Wigmeister14. Check out smarkoutmoment.com for all the wrestling articles and archive stuff like 2001 Wrestling Odyssey and the Paul Heyman SmackDown podcast.
Drew.
Oh, I mean, check out all these guys' stuff, I guess. I don't got anything fun. Hey,
Hey.
Tony, congratulations. You're getting married. Good for you, bud. And yeah, check out Dude Felice's and Wigmeister stuff and Mr. Payton stuff.
I don't know how I follow up such a exquisite display. No,
Can't
I've
handle
been,
it, bud.
I've been quite inactive for the last year or so. I've been living in a temporary location that has absolute shit internet, so I haven't been able to really produce anything. And also, stuff's been going on in the world that's just not made everything that pleasant. So that's why you haven't seen me. But I am going to be moving back into a better neighborhood soon and hope to have better internet, and we'll be firing streams up if nothing else. So you can find me on Twitch at Payton's Place on there. If you want to see any social media, at Payton's Place on Instagram is probably the best place to go because fuck Twitter and don't follow me on Facebook. That's creepy. And I don't really got anything else. You know what? I'm going to give a shout out to our fan here, Peter Picanini. He just dropped a rap album, and that's really, really good. That's a lot of hard work put into it.
I need to listen to it now.
Yeah, I haven't gotten a chance to rock it yet either, but that's a big accomplishment, and we should all be proud of him. That's really cool. So
Shout out to
outs to Peter for getting that down. Yeah.
If you're on the Mega Maniacs group, he posted a thing about that on there, so that's where you can check that out. And Peter, in the meantime, put a link or something in the chat for anybody who's interested. Yeah. So hopefully you enjoyed this. Hopefully you enjoyed all the 10 years of content. 10 years. My God. I did not
A decade of
anticipate
debauchery.
doing this for 10 years when I was just kind of like, I guess I'm going to switch that Smack Talk thing over to a podcast instead of what used to be Saturday Smack Talk of a rundown of hot tags listed on the like an article. and that's what it turned into this. Made a lot of great friends along the way, had a lot of great memories that I'm hoping will just continue and just keep building more and more and more. Love all the support that I've gotten over the years from everybody when it comes to the listeners and people that have said some really like sobering things about like, oh man, this podcast has meant so much to me in dark times and whatever. And it's like, that's you don't know how to respond to some of those things, because it's just kind of like, wow, that's nuts. So thank you for everybody who has supported us in any way that you possibly had in the past and any way in the future. And that includes just hitting that like button and sharing this if you're interested in passing this along to anybody, and just leaving a comment. Tell us your thoughts on what we're talking about here. Keep the discussion going, because we'll be back. We'll be back. And we will see you next time, everybody, with whatever that is, past the point of all the things we already recorded ahead of time. But for now, this has been another Smark Out moment, and we are being counted out.